Gather round, we got no gods to please. Saturday night, no sermons, just ease. Discussions flow like midnight breeze. No prophets here, just minds to tease. We talk big bangs and evolution. Question faith with our solution. Stars align in our confusion. Breaking free from old illusion. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Fun and laugh at myth believers. Here we're all truth seekers. Open hearts and swift deceivers. Make a stand, no hidden levers. Raise your glass to reason's thrill. No ancient text, it's our own will. Debate till dawn, feel the chill. Saturday night, we got the skill. Echoes of a godless choir. Like the world, we spark the fire. Free thought mindset to inspire. No holy walls to take us higher. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Fun and laugh at myth believers. Here we're all truth seekers.
Hey, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Let's get us up here. There we go. Hello, everybody.
Howdy.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to another Saturday night at the Atheists. And we are gathered here to talk about atheist stuff, I guess. Especially no magic zoo boats allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the ARC protest. I got my shirt today, wearing my shirt. There's the ARC protest shirt.
Wow.
Okay.
Cool.
There we go. I'm ready to go.
And I want to point out that Simos on this last Thursday had a wonderful thing on what do you call it? Peeling the onion? Oh, State of the Onion
State of the
on morality. The whole thing frustrated me a little bit because I get frustrated when I listen to philosophers try to define shit. But anyway, it was a wonderful. You have really good streams, and you really need to keep that up. I like it.
Thank
With
you
good,
so much.
you know,
I really appreciate
kind of heavy
the
topics.
compliments.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stressful to keep coming up with titles actually or
Oh,
topics.
Just
and
that.
trying to keep people on topics, you know.
just
But
ask
I
me.
mean, yeah, that's great. If anybody
Love
has
that.
any ideas of topics they want to hear or want to do a show on, please just send me the details or like ping me in chat or something like that. If you've got an idea for a good topic, which I haven't already done, I'd really appreciate the
Yep.
help there. And yeah, thank you. There'll be another one Thursday as well, of course. Thursday, 10 o'clock UK, 5 o'clock EST.
I may be up north on Thursday this time, so don't do consciousness if I'm not around.
Yeah, I won't do consciousness and I won't do maths. Those are the two ones I've got you marked down for, especially.
Okay, good.
And I wanted to let everybody know Mike showed off Dan Green's book last week, so I got it too. So we'll probably be talking about this at some point in the future too. And if you don't know, this is move my hand out of the way. That's Deconverted Man. That's Dan Green. That's the pen name. There we go. Dan Green. Getting a glare, sorry. There we go. Dan Green. Logic and Morals. Sorry about the glare there. Very shiny.
And so sensibly written. What do you think so far? I mean, it's really sensibly written.
I just took it out of the envelope.
Okay.
I wanted to see if I had it, for the show, and it said, deliver in this afternoon or whatever, and I didn't see it, and then I just checked, and I got a notification, something on my porch. So I went and I looked just before we started, and I took it out of the envelope. So haven't even opened it up yet. It still smells new. And I also wanted to. I didn't have my camera on the other night when I had the night watch on, and I was talking about Father's Day. My sons hooked me up, so I had to show them off, right? So I got a. There we go. I got me a meditating Bigfoot.
Ooh, I like it. He looks chill.
And my other son, they're like-minded. I got a Bigfoot in a rocking chair. Let's see that.
That's cute.
And Bigfoot has a Bigfoot mug too. There's a Bigfoot
cool mug
on the mug there too. So Bigfoot kicking in the chair there. So I got 2 new figurines to go with a bunch of other ones I have, my little collection. So yeah, thank you very much. All right. Put these out of the way here. Okay. Yeah, so we've been talking about the ARC protest, and that's coming up in a couple weeks. And so I figured, well, you know what? We ought to look at Fred can't stay. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I figured we should talk about some Ken Ham, and I try to avoid the big channels on Saturday Night the Atheist, so I didn't want to go right to Ken Ham, right? So I found some smaller channels that talk to Ken Ham. So and the hosts of these channels are interesting as well. So yeah, before we get started, let's say there's all kind of folks here. Good to see everybody. Katie's here. The Minnow is here. Good to see you. Tilting Windmill, always good to see you. Loyal fan. And Michael's here. We've got Geo Sam here.
Can't be a Michael.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Gio.
Yeah, and Fred dropping in to say hey. Appreciate it. And Regios. Good to see everybody. Got a full house. All the best people stopping through. Always appreciate everybody coming in.
Got a public service announcement too. A warning. Wayne discovered AI.
I know. I was disappointed. I
know
like,
it is disappointing.
Come
I know.
on. Come on.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, but yeah, AI is they'll stay polite, but like if you ask questions about religion, religious people are not gonna like it.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you a favor there, Dave? If you could switch Brainless and I's position, might be better for the back to have something darker behind the chat. There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes.
Very nice.
Hey, Simos, your chat friendly. I like that.
Simos does kind of the feng shui of chat, I guess. The feng shui of streaming.
Yeah, I did put a dark box on my backgrounds to help show it up a little better because that's one thing they need is some kind of a background to it because with some of the screens you kind of blends in. So, but
yeah, you need to be able to adjust how transparent it is.
Right.
Yeah. So you're done shoveling cow shit, Scott? You said you had chores to do.
Well, yeah, I had a couple different chores, none of which involved shit, so that's good.
Oh, okay.
Although they were shitty chores, but they didn't involve shit.
The kids are a bit older than that now, are they? Sure.
Scott has actual cows and donkeys, and it's just amazing.
Lots of cats and dogs.
Rattlesnakes. He's got a lot of rattlesnakes running around.
I'm sure they're there. There's copperheads too. But we also have turtles and squirrels that the cats don't get when they don't get them. Used to have bunnies. I don't see bunnies anymore. I think the cats ate them all.
Back when I was growing up, we had cows, and everybody we knew had cows. But now, as an adult, you're the only person that has cows, Scott. I'm so thrilled.
And B.S. Lewis dropping a message for us. Yabba dabba don't, Ken Ham, and a member for 1 month. Thank you very much, BS.
Hey, BS.
No, BS. Just typing a message to you, but I can't seem to tag you. Weird.
And
probably because
just
they
a shout out to
that special message.
Yeah, shout out to BS and all the members. Appreciate all of you.
You rock, let's rock with the fire in our veins. Rock on till the skies, till the thunder and rain. All hail Bigfoot, the legend, the king. He walks among shadows, the wild spirits sing.
Yeah, I always forget to check if I can post one of those messages.
I wonder if you have the xeno-orthodonty down on that particular Bigfoot, or if the AI does, because those look like people teeth. I just didn't imagine Bigfoot having teeth like that.
Normally it makes it a little more scarier, but I was putting in keywords like, happy face, or you know what I mean? Because it was coming off a little scary, and I wanted it to be like, with a big smile, So
that sounds like a new specialty. Maybe I should pick that up. Is become a xeno-orthodontist to talk about cryptids who and their teeth.
Yeah, with all the Bigfoot AIs running around, they're getting pretty amazing by leaps and bounds. And a lot of folks play around with it and have seen the videos, and some of them are getting really hard to tell from the real thing. It's really amazing.
Dave, you know how you can spot a AI Bigfoot one, right? It's a Bigfoot that you actually can see. Then you know it's it's AI.
It's not blurry, right?
Yeah.
Hello, Vesta. Good to see you.
Hello.
So, back to the topic of the night. No magic zoo boats allowed. Okay. The ARC protest is coming up, and I'm going to be there, and we'll hopefully, Joe says there's 5G and everything, so hopefully I'll be able to just pop my phone on and say, hey, here's what's going on, that kind of stuff, along with all the other things going on. So I'll try to take pictures and, all that kind of stuff while I'm there. And so let's take a look at some Ken Ham stuff. So I came across this interview, and this guy here, turns out there's a whole bunch about this guy. Now we've spoken about Martin Iles before, right? And Martin Iles, they're very hard-headed and no compromise. We want Christianity or the highway type attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so does this guy that is interviewing Ken Ham tonight. His name is Dave Pillow. That's Pellowe. Pillow.
My Pillow? No, not My Pillow.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Another Australian, and
fantastic.
There's something that's in Australia.
Yeah,
the water.
That's
water.
where they celebrate the indigenous folks.
Yeah.
And let me see what. Trying to remember.
Oh no,
what
that was
exactly.
quite funny. When we get to the video, that was quite funny.
I bet the conservatives love that.
They probably do.
Okay, yeah, he's an advocate for faith-based values and a host of the Church and State Summit, and that's coming up again, I guess, in here pretty soon.
Church and State Summit, like that sounds fucking scary. No church and no state should be
Ever
in
have
one
a summit
sentence at
together?
the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or mentioned in one sentence. Nope.
So he got it. He has stirred up trouble, similarly as Martin Iles has, about this not celebrating the indigenous ceremony things, because it's it's pagan and whatever, and they don't like it. Now, when you read through different accounts, it says something about that he was violating an Australian law that requires all major gatherings to include an Aboriginal smoking ceremony. There's like 3 people that come out, one plays instrument, the other one has a smoke, and the other one says the things or something like that, okay? And there's certain people that are supposed to do it, right? Okay, but the allegation is that, now when I looked it up, what I got is there is no specific Australian law that requires all major gatherings to include an Aboriginal smoking ceremony.
Shit.
However, the practice of incorporating it into large, like if we had a big sporting event here or something, huge stadium, we would invite them in, and they do their little thing, and they're like blessing the place, basically. Okay.
Oh my God.
And it's supposed to be inclusive of the indigenous folks in Australia, right? Now but it's not a law. It's just kind of encouraged to, let people know and everything.
No.
Okay.
It is if you do it because you're not a dick.
Yeah, but it's not a law. It's just trying to be inclusive, right? It's an inclusive.
Yeah, no,
so
and,
any of these inclusive things, the Christian right doesn't like.
I know, but isn't it basically just respecting people's ground you're on? Because that's it. Like
that's the problem with this fella, and he's like Martin Iles too. Okay.
The problem over there and over here is that they don't want to admit that they're the immigrants and that they enslaved people and took over countries, the imperialist immigrants. They don't want to admit genocide. That. Yeah, genocide. Dave, share my screen. He's got a website, and it's good to look at what he's posting about or what his videos are on before we start listening to this guy. So we will not bow. I'm pretty sure that's about that. Marxist puppets, the gray man. What is that about? An open letter, progressive. Okay, then he's got intellectual suicide. He's got this one here, CVED, Courageous Church, right? What is that? They lick each other. Like if one of them come down with it, they all lick them. It's like, we're so courageous, Jesus will save us.
Well, ultimately, they want what God says about culture. Okay, so they want to impose God's rules on the culture. And Martin Iles and other folks, very outspoken. And when they get flack about it, they say, hey, you shouldn't give us any flack, free speech. And it's like, no, part of free speech is you can get some flack, right? So, but somebody did complain. Now, here was my thing. He has this thing that he calls the Church and State Conference, okay? And I don't know, it's supposed to be like a religious conference is what it's promoted as. So, but then he says, but it's only for Christians when it comes to this, because somebody took offense that went to this thing and said, you're not really being very nice about what you're saying about him and everything. And one of the things he says is it's, I didn't know what this word was. I had to look it up. Animism. Do you know what animism is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's basically a spiritual thing. It's like maybe a Mother Earth type thing, right? Yeah, the spirits are in the animals and the plants and inanimate objects like rocks and rivers. It's a belief where the material world is interconnected with the spiritual world.
Native American is pretty much animism. So
yeah. So any of this stuff, of course, he's saying things about it's a false religion, it's a made up religion.
Love it. Oh, we love it when they claim that, don't we?
Oh yeah. Oh gee.
All these kind of things. So he is inflammatory, but he hides behind basically saying, I'm doing the Christian thing, and I'm telling everybody my religion's right and yours is wrong. And of course, he stirs controversy, and he's in some kind of legal issues where I guess they're sending him to probably anger management or something. I don't know. But again, he didn't break the law. What they're trying to do is not have these divisive people. And here's another one, as Mike's pointing out, very special and akin to Martin Isles and these other ones who are my way or the highway, basically. Martin Isles' thing was no compromise, period.
No, but Dave, they say like they want religious law, but like which one?
Their law, yeah, their version.
Yeah, no, but which one? The Christian one, but then again, which one?
I love it when they say they dismiss like these other religions, quote unquote, as being made up, and so they're not significant. And yet they complain like shit about Harry Potter being a Satan in Satan worship.
Yeah, that's made up.
No, but that's what, you know. One's made up, so it doesn't count, and the other's made up, so it's Satan worship.
Have they ever seen Harry Potter?
Well, I'm saying some Christians in the United States, of course. I'm taking the piss out of USA as always, but
yeah.
Now,
come on, Simon, calm that down.
Christians.
We don't need to make fun of America at the moment. They're already making fun of themselves.
Yeah,
well, there is that.
They already make themselves
hang my head low. Icarus is joining us. Hello, Icarus. Sandals is here. Chris Moore is here. Demon Orb is here. And if I didn't say hey Joe.
Yeah, and I've got to thank Pfizer as well for coming up with such a great vaccination for COVID. Every time I had the Pfizer vaccination, I fucking loved it.
Majestic Beck. Hello, Majestic Beck.
Hey, Majestic.
All right, so so there's the primer. This guy is a gem, and he's going to speak to Ken Ham, who's also a gem. And for those of you that don't know, he's the head of Answers in Genesis. And Answers in Genesis has a creation museum, although it is not listed as a museum. Other museums do not list it amongst museums. And he's got the Ark Park, where he's got a big Noah's Ark. And we're going to go there and say, bad big boat building.
I hope you're taking a life jacket with you, just in case, Dave.
Well,
and you didn't clip out the little byline here. The theory of evolution exacerbates woke identity crisis.
Oh yeah,
he's a gem. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Okay, so are we starting halfway through? I should say this first.
This first one is we're going to see a little bit of the beginning, and then we're going to skip it because they talked about some controversial topics or mentioned words, and I didn't want to edit the stuff out, and I didn't think it was really that worthy to listen to. So
there's one accusation they make about Darwin, which I just have to bring up.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna get his beginning. We're gonna do that.
Okay.
Guaranteed. So yeah. So Ken Ham is a young Earth creationist. He believes the whole universe is 6,000 years old. Man lived with dinosaurs and even put saddles on them and rode them around like the Flintstones.
Yeah.
He teaches a lot of garbage science. Yeah, it's just terrible. And that is our issue with these, especially these young Earth creationists, is they try to push it and push it. They get this stuff into schools where they can. They pump this disinformation to these children. They target kids with these cute little dinosaurs books with people riding them and feeding them vegetables and stuff. And overall, we have a problem with it because this is the 21st century. Okay, we're talking right now with people, around the world. Okay, I have people that watch that are from a bunch of different countries. I was checking my thing one day. I got some people in Singapore that check out my channel. Okay, this it's the 21st century, and he thinks man lived with dinosaurs, and there was a magic zoo boat. Adam and Eve were literal two people. The whole universe was made in 6 days, and it's his way or the highway again. He wants this stuff taught in schools. He thinks, basically he calls all the scientists liars. He has a book called The Lie, where he's talking about scientists. So,
can we get some magic zoo boats in chat for this?
Yeah.
I think I really need to see some magic zoo boat emojis.
We do have magic zoo boat emojis. Drop those emojis. And if you want to join in on the fun with the emojis, you can hit the join button down there, 99 cents. You can have emojis, and you get early access to my videos. And I do member streams where we hang out and talk about stuff as well.
Thank you
there
so
we go.
much, everybody. Look at
Leo,
that.
dropping them. All right. Deviant, Outcast. All right.
Leo, welcome.
Brainless and tilting. Yeah. There we go. We got magic zoo boat emojis aplenty. And so
that's about, like, you think we'd already have enough magic zoo boats to actually carry all the animals, or you think we need a couple of more?
Ken Ham has it all figured out. I mean, he's got dinosaurs running treadmills to get the waste out of there and everything. He's got it all figured out. So. He's got a window box with herbs in it to feed everybody on the boat.
Okay. Well, just in case we need more boats, like,
just that easy. Yeah, I joke. And anybody that's had a window box to have fresh herbs and everything, it's very nice, right? Especially when you just need a few leaves of something for a recipe. But put your whole window box together, you'd be lucky to have a salad, right? You're going to feed, 14,000 animals or whatever he says he's got on that boat with a window box of herbs. I mean, it's that ridiculous. It truly is.
14,000.
And but we want to point out
alive on Earth at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's a whole big thing. That's part of why he has the Ark Park is he explains it all to you. It's just this easy, The dinosaur runs a treadmill, all the waste runs down a trough, real nice, goes on a conveyor belt, goes up and gets dumped out. It's really amazing. They got all kind of things going on there. He's got a forge and a blacksmith shop on the Ark, and they've got nice rooms with look very nice quarters and everything and stuff, all amongst this animal waste everywhere.
It occurs to me, Dave, that all of these trees that we've got, right, cypress and cedar, oak, these wonderful, wonderful trees that all survived the flood. The only tree that didn't survive the flood is the gopher tree.
I know.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just think, I mean, to build a house with that gopher wood, it would be hurricane proof, tornado proof, earthquake proof, you know,
tsunami proof,
all that stuff. Yeah, it would just. Hey, I'm gopher wood, right?
You could probably do like SpongeBob, build a house underwater.
Yeah, it was a true loss of the gopher wood. It really was.
Ah.
And hey, Ryan, how you doing? Good to see you.
You're right.
So that's Ken, and I wanted to point out this is not a religious issue. The reason that the protest goes on is getting things like tax breaks when they're religious organization, and pushing disinformation, and including on all kind of issues, not counting what we're facing right now, heat wave of 90 degrees. Some people are over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. They dismiss everything about the climate. They dismiss things about, when there's a bug going around and you're supposed to be, taking a little thingy there and getting a Band-Aid and all that. All this stuff, they push this harmful stuff, as well as bigotry against minority groups. These are the things they're getting protested about. Now, they will try to pull they're protesting my religion thing, and it's going to, we barely mention the religious parts of it, other than the mythology stories he takes way too seriously. I always say, in our country, we have freedom of religion, First Amendment, okay? United States, you can have your religion, and I will stand by that, okay? That's the way things are here. And at the same time, though, you have to be kept in check. People like this guy, Ken Ham, Martin Iles, all these other ones, they don't want to be kept in check. They want to have it their way, and they want it in the schools. And, they don't even like the schools yet. They want everything homeschooling, because Ken Ham also is a leader in selling homeschooling materials. So if he can get you to get, there's been a big push against the schools and everything. Well, Ken Ham would just love that if there was more homeschoolers, because he sells materials, and he's one of the top ones. I don't know the exact numbers. I think Paula Gia did a video about it one time. So it's not just the silliness. It's all the stuff he does behind the scenes, trying to get all this educational materials out there. And then it harms, like I say, the big picture of all the big issues we have to face, including, I don't know what world he lives in, but temperatures like this, if they persist, crops don't like that. Okay. And you know what else doesn't like it? Cows and stuff, right? You can't have this, okay? We have to take it seriously, and these folks don't. But they're going to talk about that in the other video we have. So first, we got to dive into the first one. So I thought this guy that's interviewing him also turned out to be extra special. So let's get into it, and we're going to hear what Dave Pillow, Pellowe, Dave Pillow, has to say about, a lot of stuff.
There can be only one.
The theory of evolution has to be one of the most corrosive worldviews ever articulated.
Oh.
Its pernicious premise is that humanity and the complexity of creation is merely a cosmic accident, a result of innumerable mutations by which the fittest survive, and happily for us.
Yeah. But he doesn't understand that, because listen to what he's going to say. That
there is no fitter animal than mankind.
Okay, say we are the fittest. Now that's misrepresenting what fitness means. There's species that have been on this earth a long time that are way more fit than we are, because they've been here for a long time.
Oh, I got a good example. Throw a nuke on a country. See how do humans survive compared to let's say cockroaches?
Yeah.
Like if you count it like that, I think cockroaches be quite high on that list, and humans quite low because we're fragile little fuckers. Like put us in a jungle. Like if you've not had proper training, you will not survive.
Yeah. Speaking of cockroaches, our friend Patrick Peace had another video out the other day saying that atheists are all anti-theists, and and what was the other one about? Oh yeah, I forgot what the other one was. Oh well, anyways, so yeah, well we are awful full of ourselves just because basically because of the level of consciousness and then the brain power and the opposable thumbs and all the little advantage we have to build all these great things. But we're also, well, at one time we were very near going extinct, and it is possible. We're not immune to it.
Hey, Dave,
yeah.
I have some breaking research that I just pulled up from a paper that was just published. If you present my screen, I just sent it out here. They just discovered this. An archaeologist just found this.
Oh, is that how it was built?
Yeah, there you go. That explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they push this stuff. That
wait. They did more than just regularly ride dinosaurs. Look at that, like at the top. That's some other dinosaur riding as well.
This is the only theory that explains the pyramids. This explains it. So.
You think it's ridiculous, but they actually believe this stuff. That dinosaurs pulling plows and all this stuff. They actually believe this stuff and teach it to kids. That dinosaurs were basically doing this, building stuff. Yes.
Yep.
And dinosaur human.
If you go back, I just want to comment on the title there. The theory of evolution exacerbates woke identity crisis. Yeah. Okay, I have no idea how he's going to justify any of that.
Yeah, how does he get there?
In inverted commas, the science says evolution is fact.
Yeah.
Well, the science says that, right? And I don't know who the science is. He must be. He must be a really fucking smart guy. They're going to tell you.
Ken Ham's got a gem in here about when all the scientists agree on something, that's when you should be suspect of it.
Oh.
Yeah,
like gravity.
Yeah.
And, gravity. We got Ed the Rabbit Atheist stopping in. We've got Top Dog stopping in. Good to see you. Hello.
And
I missed anybody? Hello?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, but they said when there's a consensus, then you should distrust it. Yeah, of course, because those religious fuckers can't come to a consensus whatsoever.
That's true.
They all call themselves Christian, but each and every one has their own little weird idea of how the world works and how to interpret the books, and some use those books, others leave those books out and add others and have books written in later. But yeah, of course, they're afraid of consensus.
But also, I love the picture of the Queen in the background. God bless her. God bless the Queen,
I have an open mind, so I'm rethinking gravity, and I'm rethinking that whole thing about washing your hands after you go to the bathroom. I'm not going to do any of that anymore. That's all consensus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and quit wasting your money on toilet paper.
I know.
You don't need to know that. That's a conspiracy.
Come on, we can live with a little H.
I think you should ask the science, Mike. See what the science says.
Yeah.
Science doesn't say anything. Science just means knowledge. They say that a lot.
That's a problem, yeah. That's the etymological fallacy, right? Just because that's where the word comes from, it doesn't mean that anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go.
Well, Ken Ham likes to say, the ancient Hebrew word says this for something, and it's like, well, who cares, right? They made up a word for something, and they think that means something because the Hebrews made up a word for something.
Well, because we've used the root of the word, therefore the word's definition is the same. That doesn't follow. That's the etymological fallacy. Just because that's the origin of a word doesn't mean it's still used that way. And for that, we got to thank Michael Jackson for saying that bad is good.
God, I keep getting text messages from the science. I thought it was spam. I'm gonna have to start reading.
He comes around every Thursday here, knocks on everybody's door and asks for a bit of donation. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, so does this guy. He's always got his hand out.
Yeah, you know.
Evolution is the theory that even the human minds which came up with it are nothing more reliable than the random chemical processes of organic but meaningless machines.
Really?
Yes. Yes. A meaningless piece of shit. Like, yeah, we're all.
Yeah, if we're a machine and our brain can think things and then agree with each other on things, what's wrong with that, right?
So mistrust everything that comes out of a machine. Is that what he's saying?
I guess. They always, they'll diminish it like we're just molecules in motion or something like that. It's like, beautiful. We are molecules and we can be in motion. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean. They're just trying to say, well, you believe you're just made of molecules. It's like, aren't you? Of course you are. It's a nothing thing. Yeah, it's a nothing burger. There we go. It's a nothing burger.
Yeah. Well, I think this guy's on his way to see the Wizard of Oz because he's clearly trying his best to be a straw man. So
I got a topic for you for the Onion.
Oh, great! I'm writing it down.
Basically, reduction.
Okay.
Reductive statements like it's just molecules in motion, and what that means, and what the culture is around that shit, and why it's a problem. How it relates to science, that whole thing. It's a big topic, so it might be fun.
Reductive statements.
Yeah, but like if you think about that, like, yeah, indeed, we are just a bunch of molecules.
We are.
And I actually think that makes it more impressive that we're here. What great luck arranged those molecules so we are here.
We got Dane stopping in through. Hey, Dane, how you doing?
Hello.
Yeah, the poor radishes.
It undermines the very notion of the objectivity and the knowability of truth itself, a notion which the radical left have no problem, but deep...
Oh, there you go.
What? Oh, he makes it political.
The radical left do not like the truth.
No, we don't. No, hate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm left, but I'm not radical. Well,
I don't know.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I think he's talking.
Yeah,
about
like he's close by.
I think he's talking about tires. I think he meant to say radial left.
Hey, yesterday and today we had the dumbest person in the world in the country. I've been looking to see if anybody could get me a rival, but never mind. All you Americans know who was in The Hague today.
Christopher says, I feel like Ken Ham would have been a Luddite if the internet wasn't such a useful tool for making cash on Christian propaganda. Ken Ham knows how to make money, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
I will give it to him. He can raise $100 million easily. So anybody that's ever tried to raise money for anything...
yeah, because he scares people and says,
$100
like,
million.
if you don't say you go to hell.
There it is. Yeah. Well, he builds, extra buildings and stuff on the property, and all the adding to attractions, and they bought a model of first century Israel or something, and So they've got all these extra little things. Oh, he's got a merry-go-round. So whenever he gets an idea for something, he fundraises it, and then he raises the money. And then he says, oh, we need a building to put it in. And then they do it again, and Dr. Joel has talked about it numerous times. There's a lot of money rolling through there that's suspicious, especially on how it's, I forgot, we don't have a building for it, you know what I mean? And it's another fundraiser, and all this money's coming in. It's very suspicious where it's all coming from.
You can look at their financial statements, and it's all in the hundreds of millions. The money that they bring in that place, because they're a nonprofit, so I think they have to publish it. It's pretty incredible how much of it is donations.
And it's not people giving him $5, right?
Yeah.
It's donate. You know what I mean? Yeah, you stick some money in the box, right? That kind of thing. That don't get you $100 million. Yeah. It just doesn't.
It is amazing how this idea of indulgences is just like carried on in the modern church, especially obviously in a capitalist society like America. It's big money, right? These mega churches.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like that just blows my mind.
They have their own jets.
Blows my mind because they must get the money first to build the church before they fill it up to get more money.
Yep.
Right. And what are they really selling? I mean, what are they selling other than afterlife, redemption in the afterlife? I mean, I don't know of anything else they're selling.
Yeah,
and sure enough, those big money churches, that if they're saying that is just community building, I would seriously doubt that. With that many people, that you could go to that church every day for 1,000 years and still not get to know everybody,
So this is going to take a little unpacking, but I was earlier in the year, we were driving around a new park that they had just finished. They worked on it all last year, and it cost somewhere around $10 to $20 million for these walking paths and new parking lot and lights and security gates and all this stuff in this new park. And the person I was with was complaining about how, those immigrants, we have to feed them and give them health care in Minneapolis here, and we have to, and here we are driving around on a fucking park that costs $10-20 million, and we're worried about feeding people, right? We'd rather pave a park and have paved paths so we can ride our asses around on bikes all over Minneapolis. We spend probably hundreds of millions of dollars in the state of Minnesota on that, right? Which is a good thing, but not when people are starving, right? And this is the same shit. If we spend hundreds of millions of dollars on Ken Ham and his goddamn wooden zoo boat, why in the fuck are we worried about feeding a few immigrants?
Yeah, and you know what the stupid thing about that is? Because especially the illegal immigrants, they use fake social ID numbers, which they provide their employers, and through that, they are actually paying into Social Security and all other stuff, but they will never be able to get something out. So it's actually the exact opposite.
Yes.
Illegal immigrants are just a net positive for all those things because they pay taxes. They just don't get to take any shit out of it.
And the other day I saw a video of ICE chasing immigrants through the fields where they were picking our vegetables. They had ICE people were actually chasing the people that were working on the farms through the field. It's like
the Gestapo. The Gestapo.
Yeah, with the masks. And they have masks on. Why are they wearing masks? When have police ever wore masks? What is the shit? What the shit is going on here? It's just like, wow.
Yeah. And,
anyway.
And do remember, everybody, I was just following orders. Is not an excuse.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people hang.
Who's not getting chased across their yard is the owner of these places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that
Takes advantage of the labor force, right?
Yeah,
Just to bring us
and
back
like-
to Ken Ham, who do you think fucking built the Ark?
And the fat ass is picking the fruit from the grocery stores, you know,
Hello.
and putting it
Yeah.
in our carts.
Hello, Jess. Jess.
Hey, Jess.
Jess said something about going fossil hunting or something. So, yeah, you have fun, Jess, and we will talk to you soon.
That's cool.
And looking forward to seeing Jess at the ARC protest as well.
I can imagine. Oh, what? Never mind.
We all love Jess.
Yeah. I want to be at the ARC protest in spirit because I'm going to do a heroic dose and I'm going to do an out of body. So watch for me. So.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I'm gonna be busy doing other things next week. So.
My unfinished journey is here too. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing other things next week, and well, I'm not telling her about this stream because she does have Bible quotes in her profile. But
Okay. Don't nobody tell anybody. All right.
Affinity with. Evolution further supports a nihilistic worldview that every person is an accidental animal with nothing but nothingness as our final destiny.
There you go.
Oh boy.
I love it. I love it.
Nothing but nothingness.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that
think
is
you're-
a fact. And like,
Complete nihilism.
I think he's confusing Nietzsche with Darwin there.
I think so.
no, but like, yeah, there in the end, there's nothing. Yeah, that's kind of scary, but that doesn't mean that there is a God. Yeah,
And there's the flip side of, not existing at all to, never have the ride, right? So you can call it miraculous. I don't have a problem with that. But again, it's just diminishing everybody unless you go to church. You know what I mean? If you don't go to church and say yabba dabba do every Sunday, then that's what gives you meaning. Otherwise, you got no meaning. So
yeah.
Hello,
okay,
Ember.
Ember.
Straight
Hello, Ember.
Hey, Amber.
Nice one.
Did he say
Nihilistic. Yeah,
nihilistic?
nihilistic. Yeah.
As
He
in
did
Neil
say
the
that.
604 atheist?
Can't even pronounce it.
In such a depressing universe, morality and
Oh, it's a depressing universe too. Why is the
I'm so
universe
depressed.
depressing?
I'm so depressed.
Because there's Christians in it.
It's just
Come on,
molecules
come on,
in motion.
Just molecules
that
out
was,
there.
That one was too easy.
But
That one was way too
it's-
easy.
It's the pitiless indifference of, whatever it is, of nature.
Oh yeah, they love bringing up that one from Dawkins.
They do. They love that. They love my pet rock doesn't love me enough. Therefore, the universe is meaningless.
Yeah.
meaning are merely social constructs without objective reality or external authority.
I don't know. I would lean toward an objective reality because of
100%. Yeah.
what we have to do every day. We have to sleep in our bed and take a shower and drive on the roads, and we all do these things in the same reality. If I go to your house, you've got a bed and you've got a shower and you've got a road. Except for Scott, you need a horse to get out there.
You think I shower? Come on, I'm not a Christian.
And as for an external authority, I never jump out the window without checking.
Yeah.
There you go. So these things mean nothing when they say them. It really doesn't.
Hey, you know what the science says about jumping out the window? About that gravity thing.
Science. Yeah.
You'll go down.
Well, I know that the guy leapt off the top of a building and he was heard to exclaim as he passed each floor, "So far, so good."
There you go. The other one I like about that is number of people that have died on acid from jumping out of windows thinking they can fly. And it was I can't remember the comedian's name, but he said, "I don't know why they didn't think just to take off from the ground."
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
And
I think
we got music by Brian in here. Hello.
Hello.
there was like one case of somebody who kind of fell off a building or something on back in the 60s, and no one has jumped out the fucking window on acid. I mean, it just doesn't.
Not to try and fly. I mean, they may have
Well,
been idiots. And
That's
trying to-
reefer madness, isn't it?
Reefer
Isn't it?
madness, right? Didn't they jump out the window? Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah. Oh, that was
According
so
to
funny.
evolution, there is no greater moral worth to a man than a mouse. It is totally
Well, there is an argument that, you know, especially what a vegan argument, I guess you could call it, is that, yeah, that mouse has every right to be there as much as you do. And in a way, it's true, although, you know, in a society when you have infestations and diseases, then sometimes we got to take out the mouses. So, it's a gray area, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's little difference, as Steinbeck taught us. Right?
No, but it's also like if you have a group of people somewhere and they become destructive, you put them in prison, you get them out of there. It's the same like if like you have a bunch of crows, like if they don't destroy anything, then okay, but like on a farm where they destroy a lot of shit, and yeah, they're gonna go try get rid of them.
Yeah, I see they use like sirens and all those kind of things to scare them off and
Explosions
everything.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and air rifles, but okay,
But-
you don't
but-
do that
but
with humans, but
At the same time, though, I would think there's something wrong with you if you're searching far and high in the deep woods to find, you know, some Rocky Mountain special mouse or whatever it is somewhere, and then you find it and you just squish it. You know, I would say there's something wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's like, why did you do that to that? You know, I mean, it's not infesting, you know, a grain mill or something, right? So, yeah, there's arguments. Yeah, there's arguments. Yeah, that mouse has every right, and as we know too, if you mess with the ecosystem, you know, mice are food sources for other animals, and you know, you mess it all up. So.
Hey, Dave, you should tell my cats about that. Yeah.
no, your cats
Quit messing up the
are-
ecosystem, Snack.
And they're fun to play with as well.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's yeah, you don't need to get rid of an animal that is not causing problems. Like, yeah.
Hello, Jackie. How you doing?
Hey, Jackie, and this is all like them wanting to feel bigger and better than others, than other creatures.
A friend
like-
says, as I am human, it is not unreasonable that I might find other humans to be more valuable to me than mice. Well, of course, I would, you know, we would save a person from the burning building first, but
Before I
if
save
there
a
was
mouse,
time, I would go back and I would grab the cage full of mouses too. You
No,
know,
I get the cats first, and then the dogs, and then the mice.
No, dogs first.
Cats will find their own way
Well,
out.
no.
Yeah, but as
why
far
you're,
as
why you're
searching,
getting the cats, the cats are probably out before you.
yeah, I'm not going to search a burning building and inside the walls for a mouse hiding, though. I mean, that's kind of, you know, ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like always, these straw men that these Christians keep making about evolution. The point about it is that they are creationists, right? So they think that God made man completely independently of the animals, right? So we're not an animal. Only the animals are all together. But evolution says we're all animals, right? So this is why, hence the straw man of like evolution just says you're all no more valuable than an amoeba. Well, it kind of depends on what the amoeba is. If it was the first one, then that would be pretty much more valuable than any individual human life now.
Yeah.
Right? So it's context driven. And when you talk about value, of course, you know, in an objective world, the value of things is very much contextual. Like this guy, I don't think we could miss this guy if he didn't happen not to have any kids. All right, I don't think his genes would be a particular loss to the world.
Nope.
Nah.
And most people wouldn't, right? There are very few people that fall into the group that he thinks he's in by value of having a magic sky daddy. If we're going to straw man, we may as well do it back,
Consistent with
Scott
evolution
posted-
and integrous for ideology.
What did he post?
Scott posted a link to that video, the My Pillow guy. They found, he was asking for a lot more than that. I'm surprised that they reduced it to 2.3 million, I think. But I don't think My Pillow guy has 2.3 million. He's going to have to sell he's going to have a lot of sales.
Yeah, and in a way, I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, they bled him dry. All those conspiracy folks just
The MAGA
surrounding
people,
him. Then the MAGA and everything. And
he seems a little dumb.
who was it? Steve Bannon and all those. They bled him dry, and then when he didn't have any money anymore, you don't really see him now.
Nope.
He can make Uber Eats deliveries. Maybe he can make it up that way.
Yeah.
Just do some Uber Eats and a little Lyft and Uber driving.
Yeah, the guy's got some issues and everything, but he was an addict and he cleaned himself up and he started a company, and it was kind of a good story, right?
He should have stopped there.
And he should have stopped there, but no, and now it's all he's had to close a lot of stuff. A lot of stores won't carry his product anymore, and
and
plus
he's from
all the
Minnesota.
lawsuits. Yeah,
I'm going to sue him because of that. I mean, Jesus.
So anyway, so maybe you can call your cousin here and get a loan.
Theological vegans to feel morally superior, as they regard the farming of animals for food morally indistinguishable from slavery and murder.
Well,
really?
Again, there can be an argument for it. Yeah, I mean, of course, we eat meat, okay? But as society has progressed to where we are, we can eat substitutes and vegetables and everything. So you can make that choice. But
if you got the money for it.
Yeah, surely even I and a lot of people that do enjoy a nice steak and everything, we know that when you mistreat the animals, you're not going to get good meat anyways. So if it costs a couple dollars for a steak that we're already paying way too much for anyways, I would rather have the cow, wander around outside, get some fresh air, have a little better, health, and then I would pay the extra money to treat the cows right, because you see some of these factory farms with all the different animals, and it is truly horrific for something that's giving its all, you know what I mean, so that we can live. To treat them so inhumanely, it is kind of an issue. It is.
The Romans, they weren't Christians, and they used to feed their lions. They used to feed the Christians to the lions. So they took better care of the lions
until they got indigestion, right?
yeah. So, I mean, they cared
animals?
about the animals.
Why not?
Well, again, why not? I just explained it, because the animal has a right to, at least a humane existence, right? So,
yeah.
Genesis, on the other hand, if to be read as literal history and not mere allegory or poetry to describe evolutionary processes with God more or less involved in millions of years.
Evolutionary processes in Genesis, I don't think that's really in there. The only time where they get evolution involved is their mega super evolution after Noah's flood.
Well, I mean, there is the stick shit, right? They talk about striped animals and dividing the flocks up because somebody didn't like his brother being more successful.
Magic sticks.
So he got magic sticks together in order to influence the breeding pattern of animals.
And we got the trusty ape stopping through. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
And death as his tool of choice. Genesis teaches that the designer
and death. Yeah.
Now God's big on that. God's very big on using his tool of choice, right?
Yeah, God loves making people dead.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's one of the arguments, that you can't have evolution without death. And it's like, well, you could, but everything would kind of get overcrowded. And once again, what is death, right? If everybody's going to be vegan, okay, but then aren't you killing the plants? So where's that line drawn, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really mean anything. It's just nonsense. Yeah.
Reminds me of the Dark Matter video about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Yeah. And eventually, after too long, the place was so crowded they couldn't wait to leave.
Yeah.
God made man differently to everything else in the universe.
Yes, you're made different.
Oh, God, not that much differently. Come on.
Well, you know what? God also made the elephant completely different from everything else in the universe.
And the cockroach is completely different. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're not really that different from the chimpanzee or the bonobo. We're not that different from the gorilla or the orangutan. That's just a silly religious statement.
Yeah.
Also,
he's full of them.
God made Satan different to everything else in the universe.
Yeah. It's the unique argument. I've talked about it before in a video, where the argument was going through different species, and every time the reason basically that they were making that God created them was because they were unique. You know, the elephant is unique, the bat is unique, the whale is unique, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of what that word means, right? But it means absolutely nothing when you're trying to, make a point that because things are unique,
he means
there's
superior.
a God. I don't have enough string for that one, right? It just doesn't mean anything.
Check out S. Minno's comment. I dated a chick.
S. Minnow. I dated a chick who would say that the reason she was vegan wasn't because she loved animals. She just really hated plants.
That's a good one.
Ate broccoli, man.
Likeness in us alone. He made us alone eternal, spiritual, not just physical.
Eternal. Okay, I don't see nobody living eternal, but okay, supposedly we were supposed to live forever, but it didn't work out for anybody, not even Adam and Eve.
Physical, creative, moral, and self-aware, with the capacity for free will with which to do good or not.
All right, well,
casually thrown in on the end or not.
Yeah, and this again is diminishing some species that seem to be aware, seem to be using communications and stuff. Maybe not on our level, but. I question that we're the only animals that have something going on in our head. Now, it may be simple, but there's something going on in some of these species' heads, and they do seem aware of something.
I would have trouble making the case that my cats don't have free will. Because
we don't have no string for that one, Ed, do we?
No.
It just doesn't. It's all the way down the hall, isn't it?
Yep.
This much is surely obvious and the best explanation of the available evidence, as opposed to the enormous faith required to believe in gazillions of years of chaotic cosmic accidents resulting in the soaring capacities of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Gazillions is a word. It's slang for a lot. Yeah, a whole lot of years.
For a whole bunch.
It's not really a number. It's what do you call it?
Where did that come from?
I don't know, but I did look it up. It's not the first, but many times I've heard it used. Maybe from Ken Ham, as a matter
I
of
haven't
fact.
heard it used by educated people too often.
No. A
number
gazillion.
of number of times I've heard them say accident in relation to evolution just goes to show they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. I mean, they really don't know, and there's no point in educating somebody that's going to get up and talk this confidently about something that they don't know.
Mhm.
Right? So, this guy, I don't know what his name is again. Could you tell me his name again?
Dave Pillow.
Dave. Oh, this is Dave Pillow. Okay, yeah. Well, at least we know what his head's made of.
Surely millions of billions of explosions in a watch factory couldn't result in a Rolex.
Yeah, it could. What's the logical contradiction, please?
Yeah,
Was I Mr. Smarty Pants?
it could happen. I don't know.
Yeah, well, my understanding is when Brian Cox was talking about he was out in the desert with a bunch of sand.
Oh, yeah.
He said on the quantum level, there's no reason it can't form a sandcastle. So, in a way, that kind of takes away from the tornado through the junkyard, or however they want to make the argument that, there's nothing that says it can't happen. It's just highly unlikely that it's going to happen.
And actually, it did happen because abiogenesis, we evolved and we built 747s.
There you go.
Yeah, also,
So it happened.
I'll put the link out there, but there's a wonderful... is it? Hang on a second.
I see John Hudson stopping in. Hello, John.
Hello.
Okay, I'll put it out there. There's a lovely video called Wonders of the Stoner System. And let me put it out there. Just see.
The stoner system?
Yeah, there's the link. It's very funny.
Okay.
And 18 only, I'm afraid. Under 18s should not watch that. Wonders of the Stoner System by Brian Cox.
There you go. It's in the chat. Have a look. Yeah, Brian Cox is a smart fella. I enjoy his science communication. He does it pretty well.
No more than millions of billions of explosions over trillions of years in a printing factory could result in 32 leather-bound volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, same argument, prove that it can't, right?
Yeah.
Yet remarkably complex mechanical designs and immense volumes of coherently organized information is exactly what modern education systems claim the science says.
Oh no, the science
resulted from evolution.
Okay,
But it did.
But he's comparing the printing press exploding and making an encyclopedia to evolution. Now, but
Yeah, it's begging the question. If evolution
what do
is
you
true,
say,
if evolution is true, then it is a fact that this inverted commas Big Bang, right, created everything. It did create the printing press. It did create human beings. It did create consciousness.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
He says it can't happen.
It did.
Here talking is an example of it happening, even if he's talking rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And we study evolution by taking a stick of dynamite and shoving it up a frog's ass and lighting it and seeing what it evolves into. That's how we do evolution.
That's right.
Those of you that play Scrabble, don't try to use gazillion, because Geo says that's a no-no in Scrabble.
Actually, it's in the dictionary. They put it. It came about, I guess, in the 70s. I thought it was like rude. I thought I had it when I was a kid, but I don't know. But anyway, well,
I think there's something about slang or something. I don't think Scrabble lets you get away with some of the slang.
They put it in the dictionary in the Merriam-Webster in 1977, so it's there.
That's why I did look it up. You can find gazillion, but it's not really a number, though.
Yep.
They believe something suddenly happened to nothing and everything was the result. That
something happened to nothing. Okay, well, see, right there, you can't have something happening to nothing because there's something happening.
There's something. There has to be an object of the something happening.
Yeah, you can't have something making nothing. It's meaningless. Meaningless. Okay.
Destruction and mutation happened so often that molecules became goo, became fish, became animals, became sophisticated people.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Well, not,
you?
as the case
Take
may
a
be.
science class. Learn about it.
Sophisticated people like him that say nihilism.
Yeah.
But even still, evolution is completely clueless in attempting to offer any explanation for the first cause.
Read the book.
Has nothing to
Yeah,
do with it.
that's because he doesn't try.
I am ashamed and in awe of such superior faith to anything I possess as a believer in Genesis as history. All
Oh, yeah. Yabba
Magic
dabba
Zubo.
do. Magic
Magic-
Zubo. Yeah, here
Doesn't
we
take
go.
doesn't take any faith at all to believe that one.
Yeah. Doesn't take
Adam
any
and
faith
Eve
to
and
think-
the
to think that
talking
God created-
snake.
Doesn't take any faith at all to believe that God created light before the stars.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
I
it's nonsense. It's
have to
nonsense.
stretch my faith to consider possible is that there is intelligent life beyond this spinning sphere and the boundaries of the known universe, and that he is unlike the wildest imaginations of Hollywood alien films.
He is unlike the wildest imaginations. No, I think that it falls right in that category. It does.
Yep.
Worse than the alien.
If
Not
anything,
limited to the
it's not wild enough. That's the problem.
Yeah.
realms of existence we have developed the technology to perceive, let alone prove. All I have to believe is in a single entity who, by nature and definition, is unbound by linear time or physical space, and whose intelligence makes all of the knowledge and information in the
That's
modern
all?
world's universities and
We stop
internet.
it there for a second.
I
love that one as well. I love that one. It's timeless and spaceless.
Yeah.
Like, does that even mean anything? I'm just saying, if it's spaceless, it doesn't exist. If it's timeless, there's no time it ever existed.
Sounds like
Yeah.
nothing to me.
Yeah, if there's nothing, then that's what that definition comes to.
Yep.
Yeah, the way they define God is they are defining something that does not exist. As far as we are concerned, it doesn't exist. Because if you're going to put it outside of our space, time, dimension, everything that there can possibly be, if you're putting it outside of that, that's pretty much the explanation for things that don't exist. Because you can't detect them in any way.
Yeah, and when they say God is timeless and spaceless, I mean, like, do they not know their own theology? I mean, I hate to say this, but allegedly, Jesus was a man and a God.
Yep.
So, like, no, you okay? So Jesus is timeless and spaceless. Well, oh no, not Jesus. Well, Jesus is part of the Trinity, right? Trinity is God, right? So, like, they can't even be consistent with themselves, let alone trying to be consistent with the science. I mean, obviously, the science is a wonderful guy, and it's hard to be consistent with him. But, you know, just saying.
Yeah, how the hell is the Trinity spaceless? I mean,
Or timeless.
Or timeless, yeah.
We literally told our calendars depend on this. How does that work?
Yeah, Mike, Scott posted they found a new species of space-adapted bacteria on the Chinese space station.
Oh, shit.
And
Oh,
a link.
shit.
And a link. So there you go.
Oh, no, not that.
Yeah.
Seem like a single compound of H2O in an ocean of knowing, and who lacks no ability or power to do anything doable within his nature, including things far beyond the comprehension or measurability of or by humanity. Such an advanced entity would obviously be able to transcend the laws of entropy and thermodynamics.
Obviously. Goes without saying.
Sure. And that also goes against some of the verses in the Bible, I think Scott would know, that say something about God upholds the natural laws. it kind of implying that they don't change, right? So it's unless on a whim, then God changes them. But it seems to say in the Bible that God like basically made the natural laws and supports them, and that's why things are the way they are and are all held together the way they are, is because God's holding it all together that way.
Yeah.
So it seems to go against, isn't that right, Scott?
Pretty much. You see, here's what the Bible says. God doesn't change until he does, and he holds things together until he doesn't. And hallelujah.
Thanks for clearing that up. I appreciate it.
Raising my twins when they were about 6, 7 years old, there was like a few days where they decided they were playing this imaginary game with each other where they were warring with each other. And of course, they're twins, identical twins, and they have a hell of an imagination. And they kept inventing superpowers for themselves. And then the other one would invent a bigger superpower, and the other one would invent a superpower to counter that. And eventually they realized why omnipotence is bullshit. And they quit playing their game, and they just looked depressed.
Windmill's dropping some answers in atheism toast emojis. And
oh no,
Tilting Windmill has a comment here that we just have to fulfill.
We love toast. We love toast. We love toast. We love toast. We love toast.
Oh, yes, a turnaround.
You like the ending?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I changed the ending.
Yeah, that's a turnaround. That's
I hope everybody enjoys that. I took the music out of there at the end because cranking it up made the music all loud and it sounded a little silly. And it was a cheap cut. Well, it was a cheap cut. It was, and so I fixed it up a little bit. So,
guys, I'm not staying awake.
Oh, you're
having
done.
me. You guys have more fun making fun of this stupid idiot that thinks he's better than everything and everyone. While he's thinking like that, actually makes him less.
Have a good night.
All right, Brandon.
You too,
have a good one.
Night.
Good night.
Have fun at the protest next week.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I'm sure I'll catch you somewhere between now and then.
Oh, probably. Just hop on Slim Stream. Woo.
That's right.
Always
Like
fun.
we did yesterday. We were over there playing some games and having some laughs.
You were a naughty little boy.
So I might do I might do SNATA next week, and we can call Dave on my cell phone and have it.
Yeah.
The week after.
It's the week after, is it?
Yeah, it's the week after. It's July 6th, the July 4th weekend. So not this Saturday. I said 2 weeks before. Yeah, but it's
2 weeks. Okay.
It'll be 2 weeks from this week.
Okay. Well,
because next week will be. All right. Good night. Next week will be what, the 28th, and then 29, 30. July 4th is on Friday, and the protest is on Sunday. So it'll be two weeks. But in 2 weeks, Mike says he's going to host, and like I said, I hope to hop in from the protest and maybe pop the phone on with some man on the ground live stuff and all that. Joe says there's going to be good internet there, so, or good Wi-Fi, whatever, or whatever good signal there for the phones. So hopefully, we can have some of that too going on, and make the most of the trip to Kentucky into the lion's den. I'll be on Ken Ham's doorstep.
As effortlessly as a hummingbird transcends the laws of gravity. Believing Almighty God then communicated
That's not what the word transcend means.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about liberty with the science.
Yeah.
he did is easy and takes little faith. Believing he did what he said he did is to know he is eternal truth and perfection and incapable of deceit or evil.
Citation needed.
Yeah, and again, it goes up against almost every field of science that says, no, that's not the way the universe started. It's not how life started. No evidence of any of these stories in the Bible, including the flood. So if he's going to be that literal on it, then that's the hill he's going to fall on, because you're not going to win. And they can say it's all the atheist scientists and all this kind of stuff, but they figured out a long time ago that the world was older than 6,000 years. And it had nothing to do with Darwin or atheism either. It was just a matter of doing some good old field work.
Oh, those pesky Greeks.
And all the rest of them. I think they're going to mention, well, he's going to get to a lot of stuff, but we'll see if we get there.
The solution to the toxic sickness of gender confusion and sex.
Oh, here we go. It's toxic. Oh, give it a rest, okay?
Sexual confusion is Genesis.
It's in Genesis, really? Okay. I missed that part.
Everything's ingenuous, according to these guys.
Yeah.
Which Jesus emphatically endorsed as required reading for questions about marriage.
Jesus wasn't asked about marriage. He was asked about putting away your wives for any reason. That's what he was asked.
God designed you. He planned you to be male or female, to know right from...
And see, that's confusing too, because God made supposedly a he, male God, made us in his likeness and image, which is also in us other than Yahweh, because it said, let us make man in our image. And then you make male and female. So that's all confusing. That doesn't make any sense.
Out of a rib.
To be fair, I do fancy a rib.
And okay, before he took the rib out, what was the penis for? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh, to aim. Okay, I get it.
To write your name in the snow.
Yeah.
Wrong. To be in relationship with him and each other, and to be caretakers and beneficiaries of everything else he created.
Not doing a good job.
Yeah, that was why God was so pissed off, apparently. There was a lovely sketch by a guy in the 80s. I can't remember his name offhand, but somebody will think of it. And he said, so it goes along the lines of, so God created a garden so he could have somewhere nice to walk at when he was feeling a bit down. And then he thought, well, I don't like gardening, so I'll create a man. So he created Adam. And Adam was there to look after the garden, of course. And one day God looked down and saw Adam was very happy just looking after the garden. He went, I don't like that. He's too happy. I just no.
Quit a woman.
That's not right. I'm going to do something about that. So he created Eve.
I know where this is going.
And we have Miss Bumblebee stopping through. Bree said something earlier about going to an event this evening or something. You have a good time, or if you already went, I hope you had a good time.
So, Simos, I'm a veteran of 2 marriages. So,
God had it out for you.
yeah, I should get benefits.
It matters that he didn't use evolution as a tool to create, because death and its evil causes were never part of his design or plan for this world.
Well, no, it had to be, because he said, if you eat of the tree, you will surely die. So that had to be part of the plan.
Yeah, and I thought he made everything. So what? Who made this death thing?
Yeah, you don't get out of that. No, that's no.
World. He made you to be eternal. And it is the theft of that identity which has directly caused the crisis of identity, which is now epidemic in this generation.
What? Because the Adam and Eve story with the silly snake thing is why people in society want to identify as they like? Oh, no. and this is so ridiculous too. People have had gender expression and sexuality expression all through time. It's just a matter in certain areas, they did, they get rid of folks they didn't like. And that includes all kinds of folks. One of the arguments can be made that how come there were only Christians in one area? And it's like, well, if you get rid of everybody else, then you're the only ones left, right? So, yeah.
So you raise your kids to believe in magic zoo boats and Santa Claus, and then they grow up and they stop believing, and you're wondering why they have an identity crisis. Maybe you should have raised them different.
I don't think it's an identity crisis. It's people are finding their way, and it's done in many generations too. Different people coming out for all different things with their spiritualities, and it's the human expression and everything, right?
Absolutely, and for years and years, I mean, going back through probably the entire history of mankind, parents must have noticed that some of their kids don't act exactly like the gender that their society expects them to be. I mean, that's just how kids are. They grow up, right? And now we're living in a world which has many more rights for people, and so people are allowed to express themselves the way they choose without being judged all the time, the way society used to do, right? And as a result, people are much happier in general than they were 60 years ago when people were forced to be whatever gender that they were born into the bodies of.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is nothing new for mankind, right? These things have always existed. It's just now we can treat them differently, and we can treat the consequences of that for a more healthy society. So I don't get why these people who themselves have had kids and must have noticed this, right? But I don't get it.
Yeah, I was thinking about when I was growing up, all of the fellow kids that I met. There was a whole range of types of children, right?
Yeah.
And the girls got to be tomboys if they wanted. Nobody gave them too much shit about that. But if the boys did the same thing, they were judged rather harshly. So, but this whole thing about basically gender fluidity, thinking back, I knew a hell of a lot of kids that were on different places on that line, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, up until a certain age, I always almost exclusively played with girls.
Well,
and as a result, I played girls' games. I never really bothered too much with boys.
I kept playing with girls after I was a teenager.
Well, it had some advantages later as well, Mike. But
yeah, we played different games, but I played with them. Yeah.
There you go. But nonetheless, I pretty much exclusively did that, and then later on, after puberty, I found that actually, ball sports were very interesting to me, and I really enjoyed cricket and baseball and hockey, and and it's just how I was, right?
Yeah. I had a not a girlfriend, but a girl, lived a couple of doors down, and we used to play together when we were kids. And of course, she had the big Let's Play house set in the basement, with all the little stove and all that stuff. And yeah, I would play house with her, and then I'd go play with my buddy down the street, and we would play ball or something. So I don't know. I didn't ever think anything of it. It's just, it was something to do at the time.
Yeah.
I remember when I was like really little, mate, like 3 or 4. I was at a hardware store, and I was sitting on the bottom shelf, and everything seemed huge to me, right? The shelf was something I could have stood up in almost. And I wanted this cook set, and my dad was shaming me for it. And him and my mom got into a big fight, and we walked out of the car. We walked out of the hardware store with the cook set. My mom bought it for me. They had those little things where you could bake a pie and stuff like that. And I really wanted it. And later on, I got chemistry sets, which was kind of the same thing. But my dad was trying to shame me over this stuff. No, you don't want that. You want a truck. It's like, no, I don't want a fucking truck. I want a cook set.
Yeah.
Like, trucks are boring. What do you do? Roll them around with your hand? I mean, bullshit.
And don't forget, you go vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom, yeah. Get tired of that shit. Get tired of that shit. I want to bake pies.
My grandson doesn't get tired of that shit. He just goes nuts.
Vroom, vroom all the
First thing
time.
I learned, he has to play with his toy animals and his toy trucks.
Yeah.
I've got to ask Dave, how much more is there of this guy? Because this guy's just he's pretty much done for me.
There's some Ken Ham stuff here that did
Yeah,
you cover any of the Ken Ham interview?
Move on to the Ken Ham if we can, because this guy's just spouting.
He is.
Like,
He's
It's not even deepities. It's just blah, 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 you know.
it's just
Yeah,
tropes.
around
And
1406.
this is the
we're-
Church and State Show. Ken, thank you so much for making the time to join the Church and State Show.
Hey, my pleasure, Dave. Great to be able to talk with you.
Now, you actually started in one of my favourite towns in all of Australia as a science high school teacher in the town
Yeah,
of...
there we go.
Yeah, and that's when Ken Ham was a science teacher. Of course,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happens. I mean, he's going to tell the thing here that he just went off into ministry, but thankfully, he only seemed to have been a teacher for a couple of years. So.
of Dolby, and I think you actually started that career before I was born, if I can be so cheeky.
Well, yeah, my first teaching appointment was Dolby, and it was in 1975.
Wow.
So, seems like a long time ago, but
It seems like a lifetime for me. So how did you go from science high school teacher to the CEO of a incredibly successful tourist attraction and apologetics ministry?
wow, that is a long story. You know, it takes millions of years to tell it, except I don't believe in millions of years. So,
He uses that joke in almost every interview he does.
It's
Yeah.
like millions of years. Oh, that is funny. Because you see, he's 6,000 years, right? Oh,
Right.
that is very funny. That is very funny. It takes longer to tell the story than actually to live the life. Oh, that is funny. That is
actually, you know, I was brought up in a Christian home,
very funny.
and my father
There it
was
is.
a teacher, he was a principal of primary schools, and he was transferred around the state of Queensland every 3 years,
Queensland,
basically,
by the
because
way.
he was promoted.
Those of you that are
And-
Australians, we can understand why this happened now. Queensland.
He was an ardent Christian. He studied God's Word as a teacher. And, you know, when he was growing up at 16 years old, his father passed away. And he said that he didn't have an earthly father then, so he turned to the words of his heavenly Father. So he saturated himself
Wow.
in the Word of God, and he really studied the Word of
Right. Yeah, his father is self-taught on the Bible, right?
God.
Right. Well,
And he found
face it, it's only one book. It doesn't take a lot.
this godly young lady, my mother, and they were married and they had 6 children altogether. But we were transferred around the state of Queensland, and because my father had studied God's Word so much, you know, praise the Lord, he didn't go to theological college or to Bible college.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be silly to go to school to learn about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Praise
He's
the
very
Lord.
look at the smile. I mean, you know, good thing he never went and studied anything, right?
Yeah. Good thing he never thought about getting an amusement park together.
I say that with, you know, a little tongue in cheek, but there are people over the years that have said to me, how come you can preach the way you do and teach the way you do? And I say, because I didn't go to theological seminary or Bible college.
How come it's so
Really?
shit? How
Big
come your
surprise.
preaching is so shit? Well, it's bloody good. Same answer. Same
So
answer.
Ken Ham repeats everything his father taught him, and both of them are self-taught. They never learned anything about the Bible. They never took any schooling. They never learned Greek or Hebrew or nothing. They already have it all figured out without ever going to school. I thought that was an important part to leave in, because I am going to do a few edits here to get to the other part. But I thought it was important for everybody to know that they don't have any theology education, and they're proud of the fact they don't have any theology education between the father or Ken Ham. Zero.
I don't want that to
Explains
be
a
hit
lot.
against them, but sadly the majority of them do compromise God's word when it comes to Genesis, and unfortunately they are undermining the authority of the word of God. But that's another issue, and we can talk about that. But we encountered a lot of liberal pastors as we were being transferred to different towns. It might only be one or two churches, and be a pastor that would say, little boy took out his loaves and fishes, everybody else did the same, it wasn't a miracle. So my father really taught us how to answer the skeptics of the day.
A little boy said everybody took out their loaves and fishes, so it wasn't a miracle. And,
I never heard that one either.
Bless him. Ken, bless him. He doesn't know any better. He listened to this little kid and went, God, he's smart, isn't he? However, that's not God's word.
No.
And
Talk about
he wanted
appeals to a non-authority. I don't even know that is the first.
He tries to throw in his little personable stories or whatever, because he doesn't have a personality at all. He's just, I don't know, doorpost or whatever. He doesn't have much personality.
He's got to try and think of a story. I mean, he's no J.K. Rowling, but he's got to try and think of something.
Led astray by liberal theology. Brilliant. So he didn't use the word apologetics, but that's what he's really doing. And so when a pastor got up and said he believed in evolution, immediately my father would go to him and open the Bible and in front of us as kids show God's word and say you can't do that. So your
dad was correcting the pastor in front of you kids. That was real good, nice of him. Wouldn't pull him aside or anything. He wanted to make a show of it, right? Okay.
It's the sort of background I had as a child.
Your fate was sealed.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Abusive father, but that was what I'm hearing.
And when I was 10 years old, actually, my parents were involved in running a program with the open air campaigners in Innisfail. And it was at one of those programs where I signed a piece of paper saying, I'm willing to go wherever God wants me to go and do whatever God wants me to do.
Wow.
And so that goes back.
10 years old. What
Talk about
utter nonsense.
Talk about consensual. And of course, he never thought of the question, well, how do I know what God wants me to do?
And when I was 10 years old, I committed to a whole lot of things that I had to rethink when I got a little bit older.
Yeah.
And he apparently never rethought what he did at 10. So.
Well, I realized by the time I was 12 that the girl I'd committed to at 10 wasn't for me because she was hanging around with some other guy, an older guy, And I just thought, oh, well. So I just moved on to another one.
Yeah.
Just saying, 10 years old. Well, what do you know? I was wrong at 12 as well, by the way.
And 14 and 16 and on and on.
Yeah.
And hello, Sandy, and what is that? Frogs Prague? Frogs Prague?
Frogs Prague? Frogs Prague. Frogs Prague.
Frogs Prague.
Frogs Prague.
Frogs Prague.
Say that real fast 10 times.
I know. It's messing up my tongue trying to say it once.
Frogs Prague.
How you doing?
That type of music? Frogs Prague?
Frogs Prague.
To when I was 10 years old. So when I became a teacher, one of the things I did was start to teach the kids about creation, because the first class that I took at Dolby High School, students had heard I was going to be heading up the Christian group in the school, and they said, "Sir, we heard you're a Christian." I said,
here we go. Sounds like a Trump story.
Yeah, well,
sir, we heard you were a Christian. What are you teaching science? Who stands up and tells the teachers this stuff on the first day? I would really like to know.
Also, 1975. How many atheists were there in Australia in 1975? And why were they all in his class?
And it's always this, oh, sir, we understand this and that. And it's like, nobody says that. You're sitting in class, you're like, oh man, school year just started, and the only good thing is saying hey to your friends or whatever, And no, you've got these ones. Oh, Miss Sir, I understand that you're a Christian. Well, could you tell us why you're in here teaching science? And no, I don't believe you. Made up.
Yeah.
Yes, well, how can you be a Christian when we know the Bible's not true? I said, how do you know the Bible's not true? Because of what the textbooks were teaching about evolution of millions of years. And then one of the students said, but sir, Noah couldn't have fitted all the animals on the ark.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, just stop there again.
Just taking over the class.
We've got these kids. These kids have worked out, presumably through the genealogy in the Bible, that the Earth was only 6,000 years old, like whatever his name is, James Ussher did. And all of these really smart fucking kids had worked that out, and then they also had studied enough evolution, even before they had the class on evolution.
Yeah,
that
right.
that meant that the Earth was billions of years old.
And then they did all that calculating to figure out that the animals couldn't fit on the ark.
Oh my God, this is just nonsense, isn't it?
Oh, he's
Made
lying
up.
through his teeth. Lying through his teeth.
It's the what is it? God's Not Dead movies.
Yeah.
Bunch of
Yeah.
crapola.
Yeah.
Asked him how many animals were needed, and he didn't know, and what size the ark was, and he didn't know that either, but he knew it couldn't be true.
Yeah, I don't need to know how many
Right.
animals or the size of the ark to know it's not true, because there was no magic zoo boat. There just wasn't. You'd be lucky to get 10 or 20 animals on a boat, okay, and keep them alive.
Keep them from killing each other.
For a year.
And then do it for a year. And of course, they completely leave out, the animals would get sick, entropy, all these kind of things, and it's just utter nonsense.
They don't like being in small cages, wild animals.
Yeah, of course you're gonna these lions and bears and everything. They're just gonna sit in this tiny little, because remember they have the cubic feet figured out for the ark, where it's not room for the animals to move. It's just how many cubic feet they would actually need for the animals. Okay, so when he's given his numbers, it's like stacking the animals, right? It like in a container, shipping container, pack it all in like that to use every cubic square foot of space. That's what they get their numbers for. So you're not leaving out any airspace, any turnaround space, nothing with his numbers. They're completely ridiculous.
Food.
And then forget room for all the food and everything else. He has no comprehension whatsoever. I think it was maybe it was P.Z. Myers did it, where he was pulling some numbers from a zoo that had far fewer animals and how much food it took to feed them, and how often they had to get food shipments and how many people it took to feed the animals. And this was just, on a smaller scale, and the numbers were just totally unrealistic. But he thinks an herb garden can feed everybody on the boat. So, it's so ridiculous. And the fact that, he can sit there and talk about it like, oh yeah, these things, just feed them herbs, with a straight face. It's really amazing. You got to give him credit. Or he actually believes this stuff. And that's even scarier.
Another thing, just to point this out, and I know this is like a bit silly, but there you go. I did an episode on this in the State of the Onion, by the way, series 2, episode 2. Did God, I don't know, flood the world or something? I can't remember the exact title. But I remember that the reason I came up with it is because I just thought, look, if God, God said to Noah, do all this stuff, get the boat, get the animals 2 by 2. I can't help thinking, for an omnipotent God, he's fucking lazy when he could have just done all that himself and just saved the animals, just pinged them out of there for a year, flooded mankind, got rid of everybody but Noah, and then put the animals back. If we're going to go magic, why not just do it properly and save all of the bullshit logic which humans have to invent in order to justify the kind of things that happen in a flood? I mean, just as a point of fact, it shows that this God, this Yahweh character, is man-made and not the other way around. God didn't make man, man made God. So, I mean, and this story that he is so invested in so heavily, and that he's trying to indoctrinate little kids, which in itself is a bit creepy, it's just such bullshit, right? It's one of the key things that drives people away from actually thinking that this Bible is going to be anything worth studying. And the fact that this guy, right, and we know now why, right? We now know that Ken Ham is a victim in all of this. He's just a victim of an abusive parent that has to force their beliefs onto their child, regardless of what the child actually is thinking. And this is what happens. This is indoctrination at its worst. All right. So anyway, there you go. That's my rant for today. Thank you.
And speaking of, let's real quick here, we're going to run the ad for the Ark Encounter protest. Mind your headphones. It comes in a little loud.
Yeah, and I have to bail, guys.
All right, Mike.
Yep, later.
Have a good evening.
And so I started
And once
to
again,
really-
make sure you check the description. We've got links for the Kentucky Atheist down there, and as well as you can go on his Discord, Kentucky Atheist, and he's got all the information there on one of his what is it? The different levels you get on Discord there, the subcategories. You can drop right in there. There's all the information about the Ark protest, when and where, and all that kind of good stuff. And also check the description for Simos, as well as Mike and Scott at Answers in Atheism. Brainless usually over with Slim Cyborg. I was over there last night playing some games. We had a lot of fun. And also check out Hive Sci below with Bree. Get yourself a shirt. There's also a link for the Ark Encounter protest shirts in the description, and a link for the featured video as well. All the good stuff in there. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff while you're at it. Appreciate it very much. Well, Simos, it's me and you.
Okay, I guess we're going to be able to get through the video then.
Here we go.
teach them, because we had the freedom to do that back in those days in the public schools, and I taught them about creation. Now, I taught them about evolution, but showed them why that didn't work.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you. Yeah.
I feel a massive straw man coming on.
I also have a feeling why he didn't last as a teacher for more than a couple of years, but yeah, you know.
And made sure they knew what was in their textbooks. I even tell Christians today, your kids need to know all about evolution, but why it's wrong. You can't avoid.
Yeah, that's all you teach is a bunch of nonsense. You don't teach anything about evolution other than a bunch of word salad, other than accepting all the mechanisms of evolution, because it would be silly denying these things, right? Oh, well, we can't deny mutations. We can't deny all these different things. But then they say, but that's not evolution. Unless you need super duper evolution after the magic zoo boat to get all the species we have.
Yeah.
Then they have super duper evolution and they're fully supportive of it. So it's just the amount of nonsense and 180 degrees on everything they can do to make everything fit into their silly story.
Yeah. And of course, just to add in, expecting kids to understand the depths and the breadth of a topic like evolution anyway is just naive in the longest kind of stretch. So you can clearly see that his intention is not to teach evolution, but to teach his simplistic, non-scientific version in order to show that the Bible must be the only alternative. And that in itself is a fallacy. Even if evolution is wrong, it still doesn't mean that God created the universe and all the animals as it says in Genesis. That simply doesn't follow. And it shows his lack of reasoning. And I worry for teachers that can't reason very well. I do.
I have my suspicions on why he didn't last as a teacher, but we'll just leave it there. We'll just leave it there.
And like this, it's going to be on full display very shortly, I assure you. And
Well,
not just that. Go ahead.
It's a worldview that permeates the whole culture. So you need to make sure you're teaching them, but teach them in the right way. Teach them why it's wrong. And
so let me put the challenge to you. That is, I guess, the consensus. And I'm not necessarily subscribing to this. I think most of my audience would reject out of hand any sentence that begins, or at least be cynical towards any sentence that starts with, "The science says."
There you go.
Here it comes.
Just completely rejected, okay? But I don't know if he really wanted to ask this question. He seemed to be struggling asking it, but I'm glad he did because it's interesting.
But the consensus of really respected, credible theologians and apologists and Christian leaders, the best of our thought leaders. I mean, I could mention names, but I actually don't want to make it about them individually. But as a class, I think you've already said, there's a lot of them, people we should trust, who actually have an other than literal view of Genesis 1 to 11.
So here it is, okay? Not only does all of science academia dismiss what Ken Ham says, Ken Ham's peers in theology academia dismiss what Ken Ham says, okay? That's what he was trying to delicately say, is that, can you tell me why everybody disagrees with you, including all the scientists and all the theologians? So here he goes.
So I guess, how should we approach it to find out the truth for ourselves, to be independent thinkers? What's the method you're approaching this with, which you would suggest is the best method, and where are they falling down in their method to arrive in these, intellectually honest, credible scholars? How are they arriving at a different conclusion? And
he's trying really hard, isn't he, to not say, why does everybody say you're wrong?
Why does everybody say you're an idiot?
And some of the big names he's mentioning are people like William Lane Craig, who has criticized him, and he has criticized him back for saying that straight out, do you think the universe is 10,000 years old or whatever they asked him? And he said no, he doesn't buck up against mainstream science. And Ken Ham just really has a problem with that. He also has a problem with people, any Christians that are scientists, because he doesn't think anybody who claims to be a Christian should accept any science.
for the record, some people think it's not wise to stake a position, but I do subscribe to the literal reading of Genesis and a young earth.
Do you have 2 hours?
That's another one he uses.
I have 2 hours? Oh,
that's another standby. Another standby. He uses that in interviews too. But they ask, he's just waiting to use these. You know what I mean? He's got them written on his hand, and he's here's my chance.
I don't have 2 hours, but I do have millions of years.
Yep.
So
We'll point people to resources on your website for the fuller explanation of this, so you can give the.
Listen, I liked when he almost said "full of it." That's
Yeah. If only, yeah.
The Reader's
summarized
Digest version now.
Let me give you a little practical sort of example here. I was on a radio program, and a minister was interviewing me. There's a Presbyterian minister, actually. And he said, look, you agree you can have different views of eschatology, pre-mill, amill, post-mill. You can have different views of modes of baptism, sprinkling, immersion, different views of Sabbath day, different views of speaking in tongues,
Yeah, you got to have different views on speaking in tongues. That's vital.
Yeah, this logic, by the way, this reasoning, if he were to turn it on itself, he would understand. But of course, he can't. He's indoctrinated, and he cannot see even what is in front of his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, let's hear the logic play out, and then I'll
in the
point
church
it
we
out.
have some of these different views. And I said, yes, that's correct. And he said, and we have different views about Genesis too. It's the same thing. And I said, it is not the same thing.
It's
not the same
not.
thing.
It's not the same thing. Okay.
Not the same thing. You can have contradictory views in the Bible all day long, but not in Genesis.
Yeah.
If you understand this, you understand the key to being able to deal with the issue. When we, within the church, have some theological differences, primarily we're arguing from Scripture. If you're arguing about baptism, someone will say, well, this verse here says this, well, this one says this, or eschatology.
Yeah, why does this one say this and that one say this? That's odd, isn't it? You'd think that, God would make it a little more clear rather than saying do this, and then there's a discussion as to which one they're supposed to do. Very odd. But okay, Ken.
Yeah, over here this says this, yeah, but here it says this, and what about over here? It says
Yeah.
this. You're primarily arguing for Scripture.
And that's a big
Right, so
problem.
it's fine. If things contradict themselves in the Bible, that's fine.
That's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's okay. But if you have something else that contradicts itself, it must be wrong, like evolution contradicts what the Bible says. So it must be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Okay, so the Bible can contradict itself and still be right, but other things can't contradict the Bible and still be right. I mean,
And mind you, he's a literalist. So, I don't know how you're a literalist when you can take things all these different ways.
Yeah.
That's a big problem too. But he cherry picks what he likes to be literal because he's demonstrated before that he doesn't think everything in the Bible is literal. But most of the magic, and the magic zoo boat especially, has to be real.
And of course, the stick thing with the
And the
animals
stick thing,
breeding in
yeah.
front of them, that
Well-
it just completely ignores that. Because
Well,
if you
stripy
notice,
animals.
it's only Genesis 1 to 11 that is literal. The rest of Genesis, yeah, you can have different viewpoints on that, right?
Hmm.
But if Genesis contradicts itself, that wouldn't be enough because it's not. It's just Genesis 1 to 11. I mean, talk about fucking shaping the question, the answer in order to suit the question. Go on.
Genesis.
Anyway, I won't interrupt.
The
till we get
reason
to
there are
the
different
next
views on
particular-
Genesis is because of what the scientists are saying, because of the millions of years, because of the evolution. In other words, they're taking ideas outside of Scripture and bringing them to Scripture to reinterpret Scripture. That is the issue. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and there's the problem. You can't have an outside source contradicting the Bible, but you can have the Bible contradicting the Bible, and that's okay.
Well, not. You can have the Bible contradicting the Bible. That's okay, but not Genesis 1 to 11.
But not Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And of course, Ken Ham has a statement of faith that all his employees work under that states that anything in science or history that they don't like, that they think goes against the Bible, they dismiss it. So when they try to say they're doing science and research and everything, no, they're already under contract by Ken Ham to deny any parts of history and science that he doesn't like.
You don't get the idea of millions of years from the Bible. You don't get the idea of Darwinian evolution from the Bible. All those ideas come from outside the Bible, and they've been imported.
Probably because they didn't find out about them until thousands of years later.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason it's called Darwinian evolution. I don't know if you're aware of this, Ken, but Darwin was not that old.
Well, and he'll use the same excuse for why aren't dinosaurs mentioned in the Bible, and he'll say because they weren't discovered until the 1800s, and they weren't named. Well, at least they weren't named until the 1800s. Then he has no problem with understanding that. Well, there wasn't no word for dinosaur back then, but then all of a sudden, he mixes it all up. It's been pointed out so many times. Even if you look through his own materials contradict himself. He has different population rates to suit different stories. On down the line, he can't even keep his own story straight. It's whatever it is at the time. Yeah, he'll make it up to fit this story, but he'll contradict himself when he explains something else.
Ordered into the Bible. It's interesting, if you look at all the different positions on Genesis that you find in seminaries and churches and with those sorts of leaders that you're talking about, there's theistic evolution, there's progressive creation, there's the gap theory, there's framework hypothesis. I mean, there's a whole range of different positions.
Yeah, and again, why is that, Ken? Why can't anybody agree on the Bible?
But they all have one thing in common. And the one thing in common is they're trying to fit millions of years into the Bible. And
well, not really. They're just
people that don't accept the younger theory from the Bible. They all have one thing in common: they don't accept the younger theory in the Bible. I mean, talk about stating the obvious.
And many of them have said back to Ken Ham, the reason is because he's reading it into the Bible. It's not actually in there. Because the ages that him and Bishop Usher are using were not to date the earth or the universe. They're bloodline lineages, and they differ as well, which is another problem.
Well, this is his big contradiction. So he doesn't accept, right, the fact that the Bible contradicts itself in those areas, and that isn't in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
So theologically, he should accept that there could be different interpretations of the age of the earth, because in nowhere in Genesis 1 to 11 does it say that it's a young earth. It doesn't say that in Genesis 1 to 11. So his very own standard that he's trying to use here to convince people, he himself is incorrect about. And this is the problem. But maybe if you've gone to theological school, you would have learned a bit more about the Bible.
Might be a good idea. One of my favorite shutdowns of Ken Ham was from Walter Kaiser. He's a Christian, but he's an Old Testament scholar and Judaism scholar. He studies he knows Hebrew and all that. And he looked Ken Ham straight in the eye and he said, "The problem is you don't understand ancient Hebrew."
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's reading these stories, in a version of an English Bible. And that's the thing. He doesn't understand how Genesis was written or to be understood in Hebrew in whatever year it was written in, thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's not the only issue. As I say, like I said, that bit about the lineage of Jesus, right? That doesn't come in Genesis.
Nope.
Right. So his own theory. We can use the Bible to interpret this in different ways. Well, you could use the Bible to interpret it in different ways, just like the other Christians do, because that's not in Genesis. So that doesn't break your rule.
And he doesn't like the fact that the young Earth creationists are a minority in the religion too.
Well, yeah.
He tries to push it off as it's Christianity, and it's not. Most Christians do not follow this. A lot in this, especially in the United States, do. He has quite a following. But overall, no. And through time, like I said, Christians have been sometimes slowly, but we've seen examples of the Catholic Church slowly accepting things about science. And
it's been
I like to point out Ken Ham has lightning rods on his ark. So, there you
go. It's been 60 years since the Catholic Church first started accepting evolution.
Yeah. Well, they're 60 years ahead of Ken Ham.
40 years. I mean, they apologized to Galileo in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just to say.
Well,
They've now
see that.
accepted.
To their credit, people like Ken Ham or the Hawaiian shirt guy will never do that. They will never say, "Oops, I was wrong." So,
Well, I mean, otherwise they might be Catholic, you know.
yeah, that would be a sin, wouldn't it?
Unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
Why is that? Why is this such an issue? I believe it comes down to...
That's a really good question.
It does, and I'm going to be blunt here.
Oh, by the way, that's not me. That's their terrible editing. Okay, when it does all that crazy stuff, they put the video out like that.
Yeah, I believe it comes down to intellectual pride. It comes down to wanting academic respectability. If you believe in six literature...
Yeah, see, they want to be accepted by academia. Well, maybe they just understand that academia has a better point than you do. And that's one of the things, as Simos just said, maybe you should have gone to school because you might have learned some of these things.
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, I know we've passed over it now, so I'm going to say it now. But there's a bit earlier on when he says Darwin thought that Aboriginals were the missing link.
Yeah.
Right, which is of course completely false. Darwin never thought that, and also Darwin, in fact, directly implied that we are, we are descended from Africa, and from apes. Presumably apes, and he noticed that because even back in his day there were fossils and the similarities, the biological similarities were overbearing, and there happened to be that's when the most ape-like ancestors came from, right? So it was a logical step to assume that because we were descended from previous animals, that those were the ones we were descended from, and therefore we were more likely to be descended in that area because that's where the most diversification is for those particular species, right? So at no point did Darwin ever say that we weren't descended from that we weren't all African in its original thing, and so he would have never even mentioned Aborigines, and that just wouldn't have been a thing. And the fact that this guy, has to bring that in, right? When, as you said, this pillow guy is already shown to have a racist view towards Aboriginals. The fact that he brought it in right at the beginning of the conversation just shows that they're trying to pat each other's back by being in the club, the racist club.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, he projects on Darwin all the time. He accuses Darwin of being a racist all the time when there's letters and stuff. Darwin talked about abolition, and so did his family members. He was sickened of seeing a slave ship, things like that. For the time, that's pretty not racist.
Absolutely.
So, but they have to paint him that because he uses the word races in his book. And of course, it's outdated language, but yes, it is used in there. And they take it out. That part of the book they'll read. They won't read the rest of the book, but they'll find that word in there. Okay.
Yeah, and because they look for it, right? Because they know that there's some like contradictory or there's some old 18th century, 17th, 19th century, 19th century language which is used, right? And race is a word which is used, and it doesn't mean what it means in terms of racist. So they're happy to jump on these things. But my point being is that because he brought that particular point up in relation to Aboriginals, right? There's no mention of Darwin mentioning anything about Aboriginals, right? So he's literally just trying to pat the racist guy on the back and say, I'm like you.
Oh, yeah.
And presumably his followers. So, I mean, I don't know, but that's a dog whistle if ever I heard one.
Well, sure. That's why they had a falling out, but that was the reason that he hired Martin Iles, is because these are the circles he runs in, especially when he goes to Australia. That's who he hangs out with is those folks.
Yeah, and there's a big group of people, and like you said about the celebrations, right? It was Australia Day that they had, quite a large, where I can't remember where it was. It might have been Melbourne. they had a large gathering for People for Australia Day, and of course, centre on it was no, it was a veterans parade. It was a Veterans Day, and they got some Aboriginal people in to do their particular spiritual blessing, as you say, for the land and everybody on the land, and welcome. And it was official welcome to the other people in Australia who came later, shall we say. And a lot of people that were racist turned around and went, "Oh, that's terrible. You know, we're as much Australian as anybody else." Well, no, they are the native people of the land. They were here tens of thousands of years before, right, Cook ever turned up, or Cook ever turned up, rather. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? And yet, you know, that was another dog whistle that people started complaining about.
I like to kid that the Aborigines laughed Ken Ham out of country, but he didn't realize it. He just thought they were really nice folks because whenever he came around, they would laugh and point at him. And it's because they had been there for 50,000 years and they didn't notice the flood.
Days and a young Earth, you'll be mocked at by the majority of scholars.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because it's nonsense, Ken. The Magic Zoo boat is nonsense. That's why you get mocked by almost every scholar out there, if not everyone.
You'll be called anti-academic. You'll be called
Yes, and you admitted it. You never went to school. You're not.
Yeah. There you
Well,
go.
he did get a teacher's certificate degree, something like that. That's why he was a teacher. So he did go on to some higher education, but he didn't bother taking theology classes.
I don't think so. I think it's Queensland. I think it's rural Queensland. He just spoke. He just spoke well.
You're the science teacher. Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's got. Yeah, it doesn't mean he's got a science education.
I'm sure it was about as credible as a Hawaiian shirt guy teaching science classes.
Yeah,
so.
I do as well.
Anti-intellectual. And the whole idea of millions of years has been so pushed in our culture. It just permeates the culture, permeates our
Well, no, it's not that. It's because it's kind of common knowledge that the Earth is old, Ken. So when people say something, the words come out. That's why. Sorry you didn't learn it. Maybe you should have gone to some more school, Ken.
Yeah.
thinking.
I just mentioned geological column.
Yeah.
Even when, while we're here in Australia, we went to Currumbin Bird Sanctuary. It's one of our favourite places to go. But there's all these signs about millions of years, and you see these.
Oh, no, there's information there. But isn't that just horrible? And then yet, when you go to Ken Ham's attractions, there are signs everywhere.
Oh, no, you're kidding.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Him putting up signs?
He said when you go to a bird sanctuary. Well, yeah, that's because science says that birds are descended from dinosaurs, which are at least 65 million years old.
Yeah. And it probably says on the sign, this species, et cetera, dates back how many millions of years or something. That's information, Ken. And when you have a sign on your Magic Zoo boat, it says, here's a dinosaur running a treadmill to get the poop out of there. Okay? There you go. Signs everywhere, signs.
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm triggered by every such claim in the media and
well, you see that there. And why is that? Because if you think about it, evolutionists have to have millions of years or they can't propose evolution.
That's the reason.
That's the reason.
Millions of years, yeah.
And it has nothing to do with different fields converging with the same kind of information, corroborating other fields, which doesn't always happen with a lot of fields of science, but it does with evolution. Isn't that odd?
Yeah. And geology came first. We had millions of years before evolution, by the way.
And he even mentions Kelvin in this too. And Kelvin figured out that the Earth was so many millions of years too. He wasn't right because he didn't understand the nuclear decay and everything going on. But somebody that's devout still had a lot longer ages.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name exactly, but geology was about a long time.
Yeah.
Well, not a long time, but let me just have a look here.
Well, that's one of the things that Hawaiian Shirt Guy and Ham and all the rest of them get it wrong, that everything in the geologic column is one big jumble from the flood. What they leave out is not just the fossils. What they're leaving out is the different deposition layers are different environments. So that's how they figured out a long time ago there had to be long ages, because it wasn't just the fossils. It was finding a marine environment covered by a forest environment, covered by a desert environment, covered by a mountain range that came and went. And these things, that's where they first got the long ages, because you had to, and dismissal of, obviously, of the global flood, because you had these different deposition layers of different environments. There isn't just one big jumble, nor showing that it's all from a marine environment or a marine deposition.
Yeah, so the guy's name is James Hutton, and he lived from 1726 to 1796. So I'm guessing somewhere in his 25, say, it could be so mid 1750. So about 100 years before Darwin, people realized that the Earth was old. So in 1785, he presented the groundbreaking paper, Theory of the Earth. So it's about 100 years before Darwin. People had already started realizing, just through geology, that the Earth was old and not young, that James Ussher was a complete bullshitter.
And Kelvin also figured out that 20 million and 400 million years, millions of years. So, yeah.
If the universe is only thousands of years old, what are they going to do? Believe in God?
Yeah, and I think it's illegal.
The universe it's just not thousands of years old. Nobody questions this, Ken. I mean, of course, he has excuses for distant starlight and everything, but astronomers look back billions of years. Ken Ham likes to use only observational science that you see in real time, while astronomers actually look back in time, in real time. Yeah. So that nobody thinks that the universe is 10,000 years old, but some creationists.
Another time that he uses one standard for himself, helps himself to another standard for his justifications, and criticizes other people's with another standard. If you have to only rely on observation, then you weren't there at creation, were you? How'd you know God did it?
Yeah. And
he's crazy. Hey, John, how you doing? Good to see you.
We got John saying you only believe in 365 days to justify your belief in birthdays. That's right.
I don't. I rely on millions of years.
Let's see. Yeah, Ken Ham makes bank on people not being educated. Well, yeah, that's why I said earlier, he has his own homeschooling materials. If he had his way, everybody would be educated on his materials.
Yeah, and even if you are educated, there's still people that believe in that bollocks, right? I mean, Sal and Rebecca, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're both young Earth creationists, aren't they?
Yep.
So, I mean, you can be educated and still fall to the doctrine, right? That you've been given by somebody at a much younger age when you didn't know better. And it just shows, let's return to Peter Singer. Thank you for mentioning him in my show the other day, by the way. But let's mention our favorite person, Peter Singer. It's just a matter of minds being lazy. That's what it is.
Peter Atkins.
Thank you. Yeah, Peter Atkins. I beg your pardon. Thank you. It just shows a lazy mind if you can't be bothered to even go and look this stuff up once you've been told. And for somebody like Sal, I don't know. It shows something much worse than just a lazy mind, I'm afraid.
Well, that's where we start questioning, dishonesty, right? Because when you know better, you know, and Ken Ham has some people that have gone to higher education at some good schools, and they have to know better. And that's why we question that. Do they really believe this stuff, or are they just doing it to make money? And then they're tricking, you know, other people into believing it. And then, you know, we're not saying that these people are being dishonest. We're saying they've been deceived by these dishonest people and going back to make money. And, you know, I don't care what Hawaiian shirt guy says, you know, he pulls in like 300,000 a year or something. You know, they're doing it for the money. I really have a hard time, you know, believing they're doing it for anything but. And when I talk to people like Seth and there's been other people that used to work for the Ark Park, and they have a suspicion that the higher ups don't believe in this stuff either. It's just they're in too deep, you know.
They're not just doing it for the money though. They're also doing it for the attention and the power that they feel when people that listen to them. Right? I mean, if you think about it, what's the alternative? What, is he going to go and be like a milkman or something when nobody fucking pays attention to him?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, that's one of the things Rebecca got.
He's hooked on the drugs of attention.
Yeah, that's one of the things Rebecca didn't like when I said it was creationists just want to pat themselves on the back for how smart they are, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know better than all the scientists. Claps for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Is that what you want? Okay. But as I point out, anytime somebody brings up any of the silly things, Captive Death thinks his uncle was a banana or some nonsense like that. And I said, yeah, you can keep it up. But you know what? Tomorrow, the biology classes are still going to be taught, and they're going to be taught next year. And, you know, unless, you know, they get stuck in some goofy theocracy somewhere, it's continually being taught, and none of that nonsense you're spewing is being taught in, you know, outside of Ken Ham's abomination of a school.
Yeah, and if you want a job in anywhere in the industry, and you go in with Ken Ham's kind of attitude or any smattering of information from somebody like this, you're never going to get anything more than just a job, probably opening the sandwiches for somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's how it goes. You're going to have to be a grifter your whole life. And surprise, surprise, Ken Ham's been a grifter his entire life.
Yeah, Amber says, we can observe all the way back to the CMB, the cosmic microwave background radiation. They completely leave that out. And he also likes to leave out things like he doesn't believe that you can do anything but in the here and now. And yet he has a forensics expert on staff. So all of a sudden you can do science without being there. Very interesting. And again, that's how idiotic he is, that he would have a forensics expert on staff when Ken Ham's catchphrase is, "Were you there?" That forensics expert was not there. And yet they can do good science, so good that a lot of it is admissible in court.
Faith, even in millions of years.
That God created. So they have to have an incomprehensible amount of time to propose an impossible process. And they...
Oh, it's impossible.
Well, incomprehensible.
Incomprehensible.
That was the word he used, right? He can imagine last week, he can imagine last month, he can imagine last year, he can imagine the last 1,000 years, he can imagine the last 6,000 years. But any longer than that is incomprehensible.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't know, you know, it defies logic in itself. The very statement itself.
It defies
begs ignorance.
It defies walking a mile or a kilometer if you continually put one foot in front of the other. That you can't possibly make that distance if you keep stepping forward. And it's a terrible argument.
You can't walk around the world, you know.
Yeah.
They get very emotional about that. And that's why there's been such peer pressure out there that if you don't accept millions of years, you're denying science. And that's another aspect of it.
You are denying science, Ken. Creationists deny every field of science. Every one.
The word science just means knowledge, actually. It comes from the Latin.
The word it just means science, comes from the Latin scientia. But you're misusing it. Science is a body of knowledge. Ken Ham likes to say scientists don't say anything, or science doesn't say anything. Scientists do. And it's like, yes. And they've assembled a body of knowledge. And it goes through peer review and testing and all these things to come to this body of knowledge that we have that we call science. And it's also very good because experiments that have been done and proven or disproven are added to the body of knowledge, so that we already know these things and we can make big leaps ahead in doing experiments and technology, because we don't have to start from square one every single time.
Scientia. And there's different types of knowledge. You can have knowledge gained by observation in the present world that enables you to build technology. But when it comes to talking about origins, that's a different sort of knowledge.
Yep. There it is. You can't do science in the past, but I have a forensic expert on staff.
That's kind of weird because I bought my computer like a few years ago, so I don't know what the science on that is, but
yeah, it's no good anymore. It doesn't exist.
I had to throw it away like 20 minutes after I bought it because somebody said the science was no good.
Damn that Ken Ham.
There's this bait and switch where the secularists use the word science for millions of years and use the word science for our technology. And so there's a lot of people, and I find a lot of these theologians who...
Well, it's kind of intermixed because they use advanced technology to get these ages. And that's another thing creationists bring up a lot of times is they won't allow them into the labs to monkey around with their machines that date things. And it's like, yeah, they don't want you monkeying around with their machines. First of all, it's a delicate environment. It requires a lot of calibration, a lot of knowledge on how to operate it. And these things cost millions of dollars, and they don't want Joe Public in there fiddling around with it. Surprise, surprise. However, though, if you want to learn how these the dating methods are done and you want to participate in peer review, you can go and get the proper qualifications, and then they will let you into these labs or testing facilities. But I've heard this from I don't know how many creationists in debates. Well, they won't let me in the lab to see what this stuff is or whatever. And it's like, yeah, there's a big surprise, right?
Yeah. Yeah, constantly one of them. But nobody calls the machine science, right? Anyway, so it's factually incorrect there. All of these machines have a name. And science, as it's used the way like the information is, right, it's just a colloquial term to refer to things that apply to that are used with or by scientists.
Yeah.
Right? And that's completely different to how science is used in a technical sense, which is, of course, it's not a thing, it's a method. Right? So science never says anything. Science is the method which we use to gain knowledge. And that's the difference. Science is no longer the knowledge. It's the method we use to obtain knowledge. And that is through, and the reason science is Skinner was used is because it doesn't only mean knowledge, even back by the Romans. In fact, the Romans didn't think of it as science in that way, as a process. They thought of it as an experience, right? How do we experience the world? Right? So, that's the pragmatism of the Romans, right, is just completely overlooked in this case, right? If anything, we use a different word for what they meant, which is empiricism, right? Which is information coming in through the senses. That's really what the Romans or the Latin peoples used the language for, not this idea that there's a method by which we can obtain information called science, right?
And of course, Ken Ham doesn't like that, science learns new things all the time. And he likes to throw out, all of science has to go out the window now because they made a new discovery, which is, again, it adds to the body of knowledge. It's a good thing.
it's misunderstanding, as I said, deliberate misunderstanding of what the words actually mean and how they're used. Right? When he refers to the word science, what he's saying is the people, right, who do science, the scientists, what they say, that's the consensus. Right? That's not science, right? That's the consensus of that scientists say. Science is the process by which a scientist gets to the conclusions. That's why we have all these subcategories, right? We have geology, we have astrophysics, and there are more and more subcategories every day coming along, because it's the nature of the sciences, right, to become more complex over time and divorce themselves from what it was, right, which of course was based in philosophy, natural philosophy, as they used to call it. So if what he's really talking about is something very, very different, and it's these conflation of terms, this equivocation fallacy that he keeps making time and time again, which is just so obnoxious to me, because he's clearly not willing to sit down and try and learn even basic logic in order to try and understand these different areas of education, right? So, I mean, this is what makes him a grifter to me, clear and straightforward.
Oh, yeah.
And hello, Mark, as well, by the way. Good to see you.
Yeah, the AC is on. If there's a little noise, sorry. It's very warm here. I had to kick the AC up. Yeah, hello, Mark. Good to see you. And Pixie. Hello, Pixie. Good to see you.
And music by Brian. Hello.
It was music by Brian's here. All kind of great folks stopping through. Hello, everybody.
Ace Trades.
So to feel that if you don't agree with millions of years, you're denying the science that built technology. They don't understand there's a big difference between historical science, beliefs about the past, and observational science that builds technology. And so there's this incredible peer pressure. You won't be published in the mainline.
There's no difference. It's all using the same method to get to the information that they find. No difference.
Yeah, he likes to set things up like that. And of course, he's big on the observational thing, which a lot of creationists take out of understanding that you can observe data. You don't have to observe something in real time. I pointed out in a video something about, she said that if you can't do it in the lab, it's not real science or something. And I said, well, but then by your standards, stars aren't real because you don't have a star in a lab. You know, it's nonsense.
Yeah, no, look.
And hello, Robin.
This is a very good point. Hello, Robin, as well. This is a very good point, actually. Look, science that is done in labs, right, is particularly rigorous. Okay, so yes, it gives us more definite answers than sciences that are done in the field, right? In a lab, you can isolate one variable and manipulate that variable to give you a much broader range of information than you would be able to do necessarily in the field. That doesn't invalidate work in the field, right? Archaeology is still archaeology. It just means you have to work a bit harder at it. You have to be a bit more rigorous about collecting the information and the way in which you collect the information. Right? It has to be extremely careful. It has to be well documented so you can refer back to it to make sure that you're, distributing the information in the right way to give you accurate or near accurate results. In a lab, you can do that very easily. It's much easier to isolate any particular variable in order to demonstrate the veracity of the hypothesis that you're putting forward.
Hello, Jedi. Good to see you.
It doesn't mean that neither of them, or one is science and one isn't. They both are.
Well, and a lot of apologists and creationists have adopted this. I think Ken Ham's one of the ones that's really started it. If it's not science that they like, then they put it in the other category that's not real science. And that's how they're getting around some things where something is too obvious to deny, they'll say, well, that's good science, you know, like us talking on the internet. But it's not good science if they use computer models on disease or climate or something like that. Then all of a sudden the computers aren't any good, you know?
Unbelievable. Yeah, and of course, if you apply the same logic to his ideas, like, yeah, were you there at creation? Were you there at the flood?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just reading a book that says it, but you weren't there.
That's the thing. When he first announced his forensics expert, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Of all the fields to employ, and he touts her as, you know, and I'm sure she's plenty accomplished in her field, whatever, I don't know, but fine, I'll grant that, right? Okay. She's smart in her field, whatever, okay. But how dare you employ somebody that is in the exact field of you were not there when that is your catchphrase?
Yeah.
It blew me away when I first when she's a new addition last year or two or something. She came in over there. But
yeah, I mean, if you look hard enough, you'll find one.
Yeah, and tons of mice. How you doing? Hey, thanks for the heat, man. Toledo's roasting.
Hi, tons of mice.
I did it in a lab once. My third wife was the bride of Frankenstein.
Publications, and you will be accused of being anti-intellectual and anti-academic if you don't believe in the millions of years. It's been an incredible indoctrination.
Yeah, and James Tour was a little flustered because after he came out with a lot of his leaning young earth creationism stuff, that he was getting snickers and, you know, people pointing at him when he was at you know, a conference or whatever. His peers are snickering at him, and he wonders why.
Yeah. And well,
maybe you should wonder why a little harder, you know?
250 years of scientific research. That's why.
Has occurred. And you know, the idea of millions of years came out of atheism of the 1800s, when atheists said, we don't believe.
Once again, no, plenty of scientists, if not all of them at the time, were either religious or at best agnostic. I don't know these widespread atheists that were running around, nor would they be able to, because usually you had to have some kind of other support, because, you know, science wasn't a big money maker. So one of the big things was going to either religion or going to royalty to ask them to fund these things.
In the flood of Noah's day, had explained the fossils. Well, the layers of fossils were laid down millions of years before man. And then many of our church leaders say we take the millions of years and somehow fit it into the Bible.
Yeah, and again, he's using the fossils. He's not mentioning the layers and how the layers differ in environments. Again, you have desert environments, forest environments, marine environments, mountains that came and went, rivers that came and went, all these things layered with fossils in them, yes. But he will, and so will other ones, creationists, completely leave out that these layers show different environments. So even without the fossils and without dating the layers, you can still get long ages just thinking, well, you had an ocean here for a while, and then you had a forest here for a while, and then you had mountains that came and went. And if you just start doing the math, you're going to get long ages, just shorthand with some notepad paper, right?
Yeah. So as I said, James Hutton was one of the first people in the late 1700s to say that the Earth was not young. That's the theory. Since 250 years ago, people have been saying it's demonstrably the Earth is not young. So it's not any of this one about evolution or anything like that. Evolution wasn't a thing at the time. People were still saying the Earth was young, and they were Christians, right? Just as much as anybody else was back then. Although maybe Hutton was a deist, I don't know.
Robin wants to know if we think we're going to get to meet him. I don't know. I know at past protests, like I think Tim Chafee and some other people came out and were talking to people.
Yeah, no chance.
I don't think Ken. If anything, he'll be watching from his office window or something. But
no chance.
It is possible some of the other ones might come out and talk.
Yeah, there's no chance you'll get Ken Ham because he would be on video and he knows he'll be on video, and then somebody would ask him a question which he couldn't answer, and he's got no reason to.
Mice says Google says it's 89 right now in Toledo. It's 90 here. It's in Arkansas, and hasn't begun to get hot yet. Okay, well, I'll give it to you then. It's still too dang hot though, man. Oof.
When you look at the supposed millions of years, it comes from the idea the fossils were laid down millions of years before man, and you fit that into the Bible. Here's your problem. In the fossil record, it's a record of death. Not just death, but diseases like cancer, abscesses, arthritis in the bones in the fossil record. If all that existed before man sinned, after God created man, he said everything he made, everything was very good. And I challenge these people.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you right there, because anything God does is deemed good. So if there was cancer and disease in dinosaurs before man, it's not a problem, because what God sees as good is not what man sees as good. And this is where Ken Ham is putting, he sees cancer and disease in these animals as bad. However, when God does things in the Bible that harms others or commands people to harm others, brings down wrath of and the big flood with the magic zoo boat, all these things, that terrible thing, the terrible things God does is seen as good. So there's no reason that God couldn't see cancer and everything else that God created as bad, because it automatically goes under the definition of whatever God does is good. And Dane is roasting in Arkansas too. Yeah, Robin, I heard Joe's got tickets to the Ark. I don't know. I would. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they would even allow me in there with how much I'd be laughing.
Yeah, right.
It'd be so hard. I know they've bounced people before for that, and
hey, look, he's a grifter. He's a grifter, and he's got no profit to be made by coming on camera. So he's not going to do it.
And I don't know if my wife's going to come with me too, and I don't know if she'd actually want to walk through that thing or not either. So I don't know. I'll decide at the time, because I just don't know. Plus, I don't know. It could be a chance to cool off, I guess, if it's going to be hot. His Ark has state-of-the-art HVAC, because with the building mostly being made of wood, he really has to control the climate, or you have a big rot problem and everything. That would be the only reason, though. I'll go in and cool off if it's free. We could explore the Ark on Saturday. I'm going to be there on Saturday afternoon. Some of the folks are going to be there Friday. I've got pets and everything, and it's too much to be gone too long. So, and then also I've got to come back at a reasonable time, because my son goes to work in the middle of the night, and then the animals again will be home alone. So we've got to, we got to make accommodations, but we plan on being there for 24 hours or whatever. So I think that'll be enough of Kentucky for me. No offense. But closer to Ken Ham than I ever thought I would be. Really. Yeah, check-in time Saturdays around 3:00.
I think someone should do Ken a favor and take some termites down there, just to add them to the number of animals that are possibly on the Ark.
Tons of Mice wants to know, what kind of AC did the original Ark have? It had one window.
Good point. Good point.
And, you know, if you don't want to talk about some ventilation issues, one window. Holy moly. I really want to have a chat with Danny Faulkner, and I've been doing satirical mini interviews with people lately, and there's plenty of snark for the AIG crew. Danny did answer me on a chat. He was nice and everything, and a couple of things, but he basically said he doesn't discuss anything or whatever. You know, if you just want to say hi, he'll say hi, but he wouldn't take it any further. And Danny Faulkner took it pretty hard on the chin when he did the Hugh Ross challenge, and he was peer-reviewed by 18 Christian astronomers, and they said his numbers were no good. He denies known science. They gave him a pretty hard time. He took it well. He seems like a
Sounds like it.
He seems like a decent enough guy. Again, I think he got in way too deep too, and then he couldn't go back. He's a strange case. Danny's is a strange case. That one I haven't figured out, Ember.
At least he knows how to take it on the chin anyway.
Yeah, and he does. I mean, he's come out and done things against flat Earth and everything. Danny's an astronomer, and a lot of the stuff he does is seems to be decent astronomy. You know, he talks about astronomy, right? He talks about stars and planets and all this stuff, but then he just throws in, you know, it's only 6,000 years old. So it is odd. He does what I would call good science, and then he just throws in, but it was in 6,000 years. So yeah, he's in deep, and he can't get back out. All right, Ember, enjoy having your show. We'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by. Always good seeing you. What time is it? Oh yeah, we're about that time too. Okay, so let's see what else he's got to say here before we wrap it up.
How do you mesh diseases like cancer millions of years before man's sin? How do you do that? And you know, I've never had any one of them yet give an adequate explanation.
I think I just did it. Anything God does is good. So if God had diseases and dinosaurs, it would be seen as good because God can only do good things. And we might not see the good in it, but it will lead to something good or something like that. There's always a good. William Lane Craig said when pressed about the slaughter of one of the civilizations in the Bible, those of the Canaanites or whichever ones, he ultimately had to say, yes, it's horrible, it was terrible, and I admitted to all those things, but he said there would have to be a good that came out of it. And so that's how they will ultimately get around to it has to be good no matter what, because it's part of God's plan or whatever. So it cannot be bad because that would mean God is bad. So they, no matter what it is, they will justify it to be good, right?
Good to see you, Mark. Thank you so much. Every cloud has a Jesus lining.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in, Mark. You and Ember are probably getting together, aren't you? We'll tell folks to go check you out when we're done here.
Shouldn't be too much longer. I need to go soon as well, so.
Yeah, and it's, I mean,
up to you.
I've been breaking a little sweat on my forehead, having stuck in my little cubicle area here.
Okay.
So we'll keep it on time here. We got a few more minutes here. We'll roll a few more minutes.
I personally find that the most persuasive argument. I think
the whole death issue.
I think if you believe.
And again, this is their goofy editing, not mine. I don't know what the deal is with their editing. They had two cameras and they don't know how to switch them and switch the audio tracks. You need some better sound people or something, because I could have edited this better. And as a matter of fact, if you're watching and you would like me to edit your video for you, you know, I could do it for a fee, and I would do it way better than this cuts was done. I promise.
believe in original sin and the curse and the fall of man, and that's where sin entered the world, you have to throw that out to believe in evolution. And I think that's theologically impenetrable.
And you know, here's the thing. When a lot of young people today, oh, look at all the death and suffering in the world, can't be a loving God. The atheists will say, how can there be a loving God? And all the rest of it. The thing is that when the theologians have told them, oh, you can believe in millions of years, then God's responsible for all that death, bloodshed, disease, suffering we see.
Yeah, and once again, that is not a problem biblically for God to do bad, what we would see as bad, if there is ultimately a good somehow argued out of it. So there's not a problem with it, Ken.
Yeah, but also, under his view, if the Earth is only 6,000 years old, it just means all of those animals died, right? They still died, right? The fossils are still there. So all the same number of animals died, just in a much shorter time. So all he's saying is that God was more of a genocidal maniac than he would been over 1 million years.
Yeah.
But the same number of things died, so there's no difference, you know?
No.
He still killed exactly the same number of animals, if it's millions of years or if it's thousands of years.
And he's hung up on the words, God saw it as very good. But again, what does God see as very good? Well, God sees slaughter and slavery and everything else as, quote, very good. Ken Ham and them will often turn it around and say everything was perfect. But it doesn't say it was perfect. It said God saw it as very good. And you can also say that God saw it as good enough, right? Because it's not a perfect world.
Not exactly, no. I mean, not if you think that God is this perfect being, the maximal being, right?
Yeah.
Then no, then anything God thinks is good is perfect. So those two things are synonymous.
Okay.
But I don't even think Ken Ham thinks that. I don't think he's enough of a theologian to go, okay, yeah, I know the maximal, you know, whatever it is, ontological argument, and, you know, so.
I know he has said he substitutes the word perfect. That God saw creation as perfect.
That's the general, I mean, that's the Middle Ages thought about God, you know. Anselm, I think, was the first person to say that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, makes it clear it's our sin that's responsible.
Now,
we live in a groaning world.
I've heard one of your antagonists.
And there again, sin and the curse, but the curse only seems to affect certain things, because Ken will say, well, there's still beauty in the world. There's flowers and a newborn baby, but everything's cursed at the same time. So it only seems like the things that he can't explain, like somebody getting sick or childhood illnesses, that they have to throw this back. Oh, well, that's because of the curse.
Yeah.
But yet everybody's not cursed, right? Not everybody has infant mortality. Not everybody gets diseases. Some people live healthy, long lives, you know? So it seems that where is this universal curse?
Well, here's the other lovely thing, right? On this view of his theology, okay? God created the world, looked at it, and 6 days, right? He created everything, heavens and the earth, and then on the seventh day he rested, and he said, yeah, that's good, or perfect. So that's 1 day, basically, the earth was good for. Then Adam and Eve lived in the garden. We don't know for how long, of course, right? So for some, like, it could have been millions of years, according to Genesis. We just don't know how long it was, right? But Adam only lived 900 years after the fall, allegedly, right? So there's this indistinct time where the earth was made and it was good, for which he has no justification for saying how old it was. Now, at best, right, you know, all Adam had to do was name the animals, right? So you're still looking at days. So God made the earth and it was perfect for a few days, potentially, and then everything went to shit for the next 6,000 years. I'm just saying, it's not a very competent God that makes something and then it all goes to shit almost straight away. Okay?
Tons of Ice brings up God killed the unicorns because they wouldn't get on the damn ark. Ask the Irish Rovers. There was green alligators and long-necked geese, some humpty-backed camels and some chimpanzees, some cats and rats and elephants, but sure is your Lorne or something. I don't remember the exact word there. You won't find any unicorns. Yeah. The unicorns were busy playing and they missed the boat. So very sad.
There you go.
But I remember my grandma had the 45, and it stuck in my head with the green alligators and long-necked geese. Good little tune. Good little tune. All right, you got one more chance, Ken, and then we're done. This is the final hurrah, and I think then we'll just do the climate book for kids next Saturday, and that way we'll cover Ken again. And his ridiculous book that's, I think we need to address that. So we'll do part 2 next week. And again, some more Ken Ham so that we're all geared up for the protest coming up. And yeah, Robin is planning on being dressed as Pebbles. Joe's talking about going as Bam Bam. So that will be entertaining. And yeah, I've got to work on my sign. I've got it figured out and everything. I just got to put my sign together, and I'll be good to go. So let's see. Yeah, we'll give him one more shot, then we'll wrap it up.
Answer the criticism that millions of years is a recent importation, and that's where the rubberiness on Genesis comes from. I've heard them answer that I think it might have been Origen and Augustine also held and maybe I got those two wrong, but I think it's those two, held a figurative view of Genesis as opposed to literal.
Augustine
before
held, this was all trending. Origen is known for having.
Now here's another good point, and I don't know if maybe there's some kind of journalist stuck in this guy or something, but he's asking great questions. He just got earlier. He asked, why does everybody, including theologians, disagree with you, right? And here he's doing it again, and I've got to give it to him.
All sorts of liberal views on it. There's always been people who haven't believed God's word. So just to point to one of them, so what? I mean, it's not a matter of.
Oh, now it's so what? Okay, well, you pretty much indicated that nobody believed in long ages until the atheists in the 1800s. And when he points out that these people, Augustine and these, I'm sure Simos could name some more, that believed in longer ages long before any of the 19th century stuff. So then, Ken will point out, well, so-and-so and so-and-so, but now when he gets pointed right back at him, no, that wasn't always the consensus. There were philosophers, whatever they were, theologians, etc., that did speculate for whatever reasons that Genesis wasn't literally 6 days. So, yeah, I've got to get a buzzer. I'm going to get a buzzer sound effect because this deserves a buzz. Because once again, Ken, your peer is ruining your arguments, and I've got to give it to him.
Saying, oh, well, this person in history didn't believe it. Well, what does God's word say? We should judge what everyone believes against God's word. I guess the question is, how did they
come to a figurative view before somebody was postulating millions of years?
Well, I think this is where we have to understand, and Augustine...
as he squirmed in his seat a little bit there? Did you see that?
Well,
he got a little uncomfortable, right?
They're talking about church fathers.
Yep.
Right? These are the people that God's word, was based on. The first people that interpreted these so-called documents, right, which later got changed, right? As more interpretations and more translations were made, the word is changed, right? That's the nature of how stories are told, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the originals, right? It's pretty careless that God lost the originals, but nonetheless, we don't have the originals. I mean, the first full complete Bible is not till, I don't know, like 4th century or something. So, I'm just saying that the doctrine that was created by these people, Paul being one of them, of course, has changed over those years before it became formalized to the point where everybody used the same Bibles to translate from. And even then, the translations themselves still have theological viewpoints, right? The King James Bible, as everybody should know, was written by a group of scholars who reinterpreted the word based in light of their theological views of what is or what was Protestantism.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, and like that is another big schism, right? The Catholics versus the Protestants, and that isn't even the first one, right? Same thing.
Yeah, so his argument
with
is
the Latin Bible.
Yeah, the argument is bad. There were long before Darwin and the rest of them, there were people having these disagreements theologically. Long before the evil atheists of the 1800s showed up, and that's why I say he pressed him on it. I'm impressed. And Ken squirmed in his chair there. I don't think he liked that question.
Well, the Greeks knew that the Earth wasn't young.
Yeah.
Let me just say that. They found literally carbonized trees, like buried in the earth, and went, something's not right here.
Mm-hmm.
This must mean these trees are very, very old.
We'll get his answer here, then that'll be it. And yeah, Robin, saddle up a 200-pound beaver. Don't give Ken Ham any ideas. He'll open another ride.
Of the days as different to ordinary days and so on, although I think he changed a bit over time. But you go back and look at the majority of those who believe God's word took a very strong stand on 6 literal days in young earth. John Calvin took an extremely strong stand, for instance, that you can read in his commentaries and so on. But
now, see, there again, he's pointing out somebody. Well, see, this person said something different. But who cares what this one person said over here? Well, terrible response, Ken.
Who cares what the church fathers said? You know, I'm a Protestant. I believe in Calvinism.
Well, he doesn't care what they say. I mean, he's got it all figured out. Like you said, he's glad that he never learned anything and went to school for it, because
there you go.
it might have affected his beliefs in some way, and that's the last thing he wants.
Here's the point that we have to come to grips with, and that is, who's the authority we should appeal to? Should we be appealing to human authority or to God?
All right.
You don't have a choice. You do not have a choice. Right? All you have is the book, right? And that's it. You got your book and your mind, and those are the only two things you can appeal to. The books were written by humans, right? Your mind is human. You only have human authority to appeal to, right? Unless you're telling me, and I believe you probably would say this, that God has spoken to you directly. In which case, let's just put you in there with the nutters, because that's basically as good.
And he just did a terrible job. I mean, it's clearly pointed out that theologians have disagreed, and it's been a long-standing thing. Pull my picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke.
He's
a joke. He's a joke.
He is a joke. His answers are terrible. They contradict each other. He uses things when it suits him. And like I said, who cares what this person says? This person over here says something I agree with, right?
Yeah.
And then he points out, but you're kind of standing alone in your field, right? Everybody else disagrees with you. Well, that's a good thing. He sees it as a badge of honor that, and again, it's not that he has religious support, okay? He doesn't have any scientific support. He doesn't have any historical support. He doesn't have any theological support. Everybody in academia that is credible and doesn't work for Ken Ham doesn't agree with him, other than, a couple oddballs out there like Hovind and Ray Comfort and some of his buddies. And of course, they're in on the grift too.
Yeah, and it goes back to the thing. If you really want to be a proper grifter in the Christian community, you have to portray yourself as a victim. And the bigger the victim, the better the grift.
Yeah. And they do that very well. That's, they set up sciences against them. the
Everybody's
government's against them.
The government, especially.
Yeah, the LGBTQ folks, which are a small minority, somehow have all the power to be against him.
And and I'm sure he said this as well. The government are against him. Same as Hogan says, that's right. Government's against me, and yet both of those guys have had huge local investment from the counties they live in. Right, this arc was literally, I believe it's in the region of over 50 million, was council money or government money given to them in order to do this, right? Because of the amount of investment it would bring in and the jobs for Mexicans it would bring in, that kind of thing. So, I mean, like, the fact that he plays the victim card so well is, again, another line of being completely disingenuous.
And this guy is so cheap. He doesn't even want to pay people to work there. First of all, I've heard that he overworks people. And he has a new thing going where he bought or built some like apartment buildings, and he's going to set them up as like dorms. And what he wants to do is have students come there and do an intern program.
Yeah, we know what that means as well.
That means you don't get paid.
Well, not just that either, yeah. We know what kind of interns they like the best.
Yeah. So, there's this whole thing, too, where not only didn't he make money for the community that he promised, that he doesn't pay his people well either. And one of the other things he's been slowly doing is, people will still stop in town because, like a lot of us, when you go somewhere, there's usually a little town nearby, right? And you stop in there and you get something to eat or, whatever and stuff.
Water, refreshments, you fill up with gas.
Those kind of things. Well, Ham slowly sabotaged all that, too, because he put a restaurant on his property, so people aren't going to stop anywhere for something to eat. He's got snacks and ice cream and all that, so nobody's going to stop at the little ice cream parlor on their way out and, have an ice cream before they hit the road or any of those things. And now he's also involved in a hotel. So the hotels that were getting any of the money, now he's got his hand into that too, so he'll be getting the money. And I'm not sure, but I think I said something about next he'll have a gas station, and I think somebody said that maybe he is possibly part owner in a gas station too. So nobody's making any money but Ken Ham in that area. And on top of it all, he tried to get out of paying taxes and service fees. And one of the good things about him paying the service fees is we know the attendance numbers. And Dan Phelps just put the attendance numbers out, and his attendance numbers are lower than they were last year. So that's a good trend. That's what we like to see. And the reason we know that is they charged Ken Ham like 50 cents a ticket so they could expand their emergency services, because it's a small town, so they just had a small emergency services. And with this big attraction, they wanted to make sure they had a bigger fire truck and, an extra ambulance and that kind of stuff, just in case, right? So they said, well, you got to kick in, because we're a small town and we can't fund a big fire department and everything. And Ken fought him on it, but ultimately he ended up paying it. So Dan Phelps puts in for the information, because we know how many tickets he sold, because he has to pay 50 cents per ticket to the county, and that's public information. So good news, the attendance numbers were down like 20,000, I think it was, from last year. You can follow Dan Phelps. He's on Facebook and everything. He posts the numbers, and he posts emails, and Dan Phelps is the guy that figured out a lot of the stuff behind the scenes over the years on all the tax breaks that Ken got. He's a thorn in his side. We appreciate Dan. Dan's been on the channel a few times. I did let Dan know about the protest, but I know Dan doesn't get around like he used to. I think he's maybe a problem with his leg or something. So we wish Dan all the best, though. And yeah, so you know, who knows? He may be feeling good. He may stop by, but yeah, he's not. He doesn't get around like he used to. However, Dan is the man. He's done so much digging, writing editorials, and all the stuff. And we appreciate that we know everything about all the shenanigans going on because of Dan Phelps. So salute, sir. Thank you very much. And I hope you're doing well. And with that, we're going to wrap up Ken Ham. I say we'll do the second part about his book, Two Kids About the Climate, next week. And that's pretty infuriating, too.
Oh, I should think more infuriating, yeah.
And the people that are interviewing him are well, they're special, too, just like this interviewer was today. So we'll do that other video then next week. I've already got it set to go, so we'll be good to go. And that'll have us all primed for the ARC protest, where yours truly will be going. And Robin's planning on being there. A lot of folks are planning on being there. There's going to be a lot of YouTubers there doing speeches. I know Ember wanted to go, but she may not be able to go. So I think she's recorded something that Joe can play or something like that. So Ember will still be there in spirit, hopefully. And yeah, it's a free event. So if you're in the area, you can stop by for free. If you have to travel or something like I do, you know, you gotta, get a hotel room or whatever, stuff like that. But the event is free. So if you're in the area, stop by July 6th. Joe says something like 11 to 3 or, some hours, kind of something like that. It's going to be some speeches, and then we do the little protest thing and hold our signs, and then something else to close the thing up, and then he's gonna somebody's hosting an after protest party where everybody can get together. There's also going to be something before the protest. There's going to be something the night before and the night before for people that are coming into town early. So if you're going to come, or if you want to stop by, if you're in the area, everybody's going to be within a close proximity of each other. The places where we're staying aren't far from the ARC either. So if you want to meet us, swing by. We're all going to be pretty much in the same area. And I know I'm in the hotel some of the other folks are staying at. So yeah, hopefully we can get maybe somebody to stop by for a Saturday night at the Atheists. Mike's going to plan on hosting it. And then I can just stop in or whatever. And the day of the protest, I do plan on going live. Joe said we should have a good signal for phones and everything like that. So hopefully I can just pop the phone on and give you a live shot, everything what's going on. So watch for that. And with that, Simos, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about what's going on over with you?
Okay, thank you. I will. Just before I do, thank you, Robin. I'm glad you're going, and I'm also glad to see Gutsy Gibbons going. I'm a huge fan, and
Awesome.
If you see her, Robin, please tell her a friend from Roehampton says hello. She know who that is. She doesn't know me by name, but she does know that I live very close to Roehampton. And also, you have a great time there, because I'm very jealous of you getting to meet all of these wonderful people. However, there we go. Thank you. And other than that, of course, my channel is Simos Funk, at Simos Funk on YouTube. And that, of course, I have a Thursday night show, which Dave comes to, and a lot of you already come to. So thank you so much. That's a philosophy show. We just talk about random stuff. I normally put the link in the chat so people, newbies, can come in, usually a little later when people have dropped out. Or if you do want to get in and the room's full and you have something specific to say, you can always just tag me in the chat and I'll try and make room for you. and so that's Thursday nights at 5, or Thursday afternoons, 5 o'clock p.m. EST. So it's a bit early for you, but it's late here. So we're trying to make a compromise there. And then I also have a racing show, Formula One. And of course, I do gaming from time to time as well, although not too much these days. But that's me. So thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be here, Dave.
Always a pleasure, Simos. And yeah, link is in the description, as well as for Slim Cyborg, Answers in Atheism, The Grassman Chronicles, which is my other channel. There's the link down there for Bree at Hive Size. She's got merch. You need a new t-shirt, get yourself a cryptid shirt. I think she's also got a Pride shirt out. She's got a tank top out. She's got a bunch of stuff. Joe also has merch, Kentucky Atheist, and he has a affiliate. There's a discount code that's in the description, as well as a link to Joe's channel. And if you want any information about the ARC protest, Joe has it all laid out on Discord under, again, the Kentucky Atheist. He's got links over there, hotels for getting your shirt. And again, I'm wearing my shirt. Got the ARC protest shirt on. It's got the ARC with the hand. Help me, help me. And on the back, I don't know if you can see the back. You see the back there? You got the sponsors on the back of the shirt. I got it today. It still kind of smells like a printing thingy, but I'll run it through a rinse. But I wanted to put it on for the show tonight. And yeah, so we will be talking about Ken Ham again next week, because yeah, it's gearing up for the protest. So
go ham, everybody.
Yeah, we're going full ham, and I do like the AI job on the Ken Ham as Fred Flintstone. It did a pretty good job there. So thanks, AI. Not everybody appreciates AI, but sometimes it does a really good job. I mean, that is a good Ken Ham as Fred Flintstone. You couldn't ask for much of a better job, right? And this picture is with Ken Ham's ARC in the background, in case you're wondering. And this big empty spot here that doesn't have any water in it, I think that's his pond. Now, quick story, and you can check out my interview with Seth on my channel if you want to. I also had Leia on too. Both of them worked at the ARC Park. I've interviewed them both, and Seth has been on again since, and Dan Phelps has been on a couple times. So if you want to hear more about this stuff, look up any of my Ken Ham videos with Leia or Seth or Dan Phelps. And sometimes they'll say we had Dan and Seth and Mike and everybody all together for one of the videos too. So we have covered Ken Ham, and not just from an outsider, but from Dan Phelps, who does all the digging. He knows all the stuff in the back, and 2 former employees. So check those out. Great interviews, great talks with those folks. And so on the thing here, real quick before we wrap it up, because I love this story. Ark Encounter had a flooding issue. How ironic is that? Yes, Ken Ham did have to fight a flood claim. Now, what happened was a service road washed out. Okay, this thing is built on a hill, so you do have all kind of access roads and everything to get to the back or whatever it is, right? Okay. So Ken Ham, again, is cheap. And he didn't put in, what do you call it? The reinforcements, where you put the piles in, and, to keep the hill from washing away. So that is what washed away and what he was fighting over the insurance company about. Now, here's the funny part. Ken Ham has a pond in front of his ARC, and his pond was leaking, and it kept leaking, and they kept putting water in it, so it had water in it, but it kept leaking. So he was saturating the ground, and then along came a rain, and it washed his road out. So it's kind of funny and amusing to me, especially happening to Ken Ham, that he caused his own problem, because first of all, he was too cheap to do his pond right, and I'm a pond guy. So that was like, come on, Ken, you're too cheap, right? You thought you could just fill a hole with water? Don't work that way. And so he saturated his own ground and caused himself all his problems. And the funniest part of it, and this is, I have a video on this. I even have a short clip of it when Seth told the story. Ken Ham's pond was leaking, right? So they called in people with dowsing rods to try to find the leak in Ken Ham's pond. I never laughed so hard about a Ken Ham story as I did about that one. The guy that, again, Martin Isles, and we covered the Dave Pillow earlier, that, all that, wizardry stuff. Ooh. But they called in people with dowsing rods to try to find the leak. And I guess that's okay when you're using your magic sticks to find the leak, right? So that is the whole story about the ark thing. Yeah, Ken Ham's cheap. He didn't build his road good. He didn't build his pond good. It all washed out. And I wish somebody could have got a video of the people with their dowsing rods trying to find the leak. That would have been great. So that's the whole story of the flood claim that Ken Ham had. And I hope you found it amusing, because I sure did.
Well, I thought dowsing rods were to find water. So that was the problem. They kept going, yep, there's some water over here. Oh, yeah, and over here as well.
I didn't understand how that was supposed to work either, right? If there's a pond and the ground is saturated because it's leaking, I didn't understand what they were going to do. But I just thought it was funny that they called people in with their magic sticks.
Somebody saw them coming from a mile away. They were probably using their dowsing rods to notice.
Well, they were probably a lot cheaper than the contractor. So.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
So, I hope everybody had a good time tonight at Ken Ham's expense. And we plan some more in the future. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Simos. And with that, we're going to pull up the outro music.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
We'll see everybody next week. Here we go.
Tales of lore knocking at the captive desk's door. Oh, legends live within these walls, silent echoes in the halls, books and stories on the floor, knocking at the captive desk's door. Oh, captive desk, hold our dreams, we're reality, and no myth seems. In conversations quiet flow, the mysteries untold will know. Legends live within these walls, silent echoes in the halls, books and stories on the floor, knocking at the captive text. Nerves are wide, hearts are keen, pages turn to secret scene, ancient maps and